you. Good evening. Welcome to the August 31st meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank our staff, Jen, Alyssa, Josh, Mark, and Kristen for their continued support to this commission and the applicants. We're missing one commissioner at the moment. Maury has informed me she's going to be a little bit late, trying to keep up with Courtney. All right. Allow me to remind you guys for commenting. I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Please refrain from speaking over each other. Also, that all votes have to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, state your name and your vote, even if you made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, excuse me, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. Also, Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, as an applicant, you want to hear a negative determination, as it allows you to move forward with your project without the necessity of a full notice of intent application. And for the benefit of anyone who is waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued. 0, 16, and 101 Lakeshore Drive. Now, our first order of business is we're going to go into executive session. So what's going to happen is we've opened this meeting. We're going to go into executive session, and the public meeting will resume thereafter. The purpose of this executive session is to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding how on Vineyard Street, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the commission. So to read the further legalese, to discuss strategy with respect to ongoing litigation in the matter of how, pursuant to Mass General Laws, 30A, Section 21A3. So what I'll be looking for is, so again, to the public, this public meeting will resume after executive session. So I will need a motion and a second to enter executive session.
So moved. Gladfelter.
Bird second. Second O'Brien.
All right. We have a motion and a second to enter executive session. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien aye.
Melissa.
Right-tailed aye.
Steve.
Aye.
All right, it is unanimous. We are entering executive session. See you soon. All right, next up on the agenda, discussion and vote to restrict hunting. Says two, but I think it means in BB Woods. Oh, no. Yeah, in BB Woods.
Yeah, in Baby Woods. Mr. Chairman, I've
Wow.
promoted Alex Zolo up from the 300 committee to begin this discussion with the board.
Alex, how are you?
Good evening, Alex Zolo for the record. I am the Director of Stewardship for the 300 Committee Land Trust. I am here this evening to talk to you about BB Woods. I can share my screen. Just a moment. All right. Okay. So the reason I'm here is to talk to you about BB Woods and Peterson Farm. Every year there ends up being issues around people trying to hunt here. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about this. First, I just wanted to start off with sharing with you a list of places where hunting is permitted in town. I think this is all inclusive. I don't think I missed anywhere. So these are all the places in town where people can hunt. There's over 15 of them. And then the hunting not permitted, there are definitely other little pocket conservation parcels, but those were the big ones. So just to paint the picture, there are a lot of places where people can hunt. And I would also like to share that I firmly am of the belief that hunting and hiking can coexist peacefully, and even for the benefit of conservation efforts in our town. So I'm definitely not against hunting. Where we get into it a little bit is that BB Woods was purchased by the Lilly family in 1972, and at the same time they then deeded it over to the town for conservation to be a public park forever. A lot of the language in the deed is very similar to our conservation restrictions today. So specifically in the deed, it says the prohibited section, if you can kind of see it there, D, it prohibits hunting of any kind, whether with bow and arrow or firearm of any kind. Trapping, but not excluded to fishing, which can be permitted to the extent consistent with the purposes of the trust. So it is deeded that the property cannot, that hunting cannot happen there. Just a map of the area to familiarize anyone with it that hasn't been out there. It is, especially with Peterson Farm, you've got just under 500 acres, and it's some of the heaviest hiked areas in town. So this gets us to the regulations for posting hunting signage. In the past, Mark and I have both been out there posting no hunting signs, and it really came to a head last fall when there were hunters up in BB Woods. They had access from Sipawithit Road. They had set up a stand. We had called the state EPOs. We let them know that hunting was not allowed here, and we were told, well, your hunting signage is not covered basically under Mass General Law. So we just had simple no hunting signs, like the orange and black ones, and it wasn't enough. Even though the hunter had to walk past the no hunting sign, he literally said to the EPO, "You can't do anything to me because the property is not properly posted." And he said, "You're right." So the guy was able to keep hunting last year. So he was not given extra permission to be there because we hadn't posted it properly. So I'm here to ask you all to take a vote on this. So to paint the picture what it's going to look like, there's going to be a lot of signs. In order to post it conspicuously as the general law states, this is me like trying to figure out how many signs we're going to have. I am gonna start the order with like ordering 250 signs. I'm hoping that we're only putting like 175, 150 up. But these are all the spots where they are, and then we are including Peterson Farm with this. It is not easy to tell when you're on the land where Peterson Farm starts and BB Wood, where the differential is. So there being the farm there, and the old management plans had referenced a no hunting on the property. So kind of in line with that, we're all working on getting that up to 2022 standards. But so here you can see the orange-ish dots and then along here. So we have donors that are interested in buying the signs. I would work with Jen and Mark on the language. It would say, you know, per the order of Falmouth Conservation Commission, no hunting allowed on this property. And we are offering to help install them with volunteers. So that's the end of it. That's all I've got.
Alex, can you stop sharing, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alex, you just said help install. You implied we're installing them.
You are not installing them. We will
Thank you.
install them.
250 signs. Oh my.
I
All
know.
right.
I'm realistically, I think it's going to be closer to like 125, 150 that we'll be putting up, but they're going to get stolen. So I'm ordering a lot off the bat so that we have extras.
You're just looking for a vote from us
Yes.
Vote
to allow you
accept
to do it?
Yep.
So
And perfect. Yeah, Melissa. Or I shouldn't be saying that.
through the chair, Jamie, if I may, if you're going to be posting BB Woods and Peterson Farm, are you going to have to post every other place ultimately in town that has no hunting? I mean, are we starting a big project here? And doesn't I may have missed it. Doesn't Massachusetts have a regulation that says, you know, every 200 feet or something like that? I know Vermont has a sign every 200 feet, so you don't have to put one on every single piece of property.
No, so I wish it was worded better. It literally says conspicuous. So whatever that means. So what we're gonna try to do is do them where it makes sense. If somebody can enter the woods, if there's a path, we're gonna post them. If we can do it along like, you know, Pear Hewn or Woods Hole Road, maybe every 200 feet. But if it's a place where people can't walk in anyway, because it's super thick underbrush, we're not gonna post right there. The other properties, a lot of those ones that are on that list of no, like where you can't hunt, a lot of those don't meet the setback. You simply can't hunt there because it doesn't meet the distance requirements from other properties, like residences or roads.
Yeah.
So no, this one's unique because it is so big. That's kind of why we're here.
Okay, thanks.
In the past, the town has lacked the resources and manpower to properly post BB Woods. As Alex said, the town has attempted over the years to post the entrances and as a deterrent. But the hunting laws are the hunting laws. If it's not conspicuously posted, the EPOs and MES really can't do anything. So kudos to the 300 committee and the volunteer that, I mean, the resident that donated the money to buy the signs. And thank you, Alex, for gathering a volunteer group together to post the town. Post the property. The town is appreciative of your efforts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Steve? You're on mute. Steve, you're muted.
Sorry. So would the signage be allowed in perpetuity?
I don't understand the question.
Is it just for this year? Do we have to do this every year?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically until, I don't think you would really have to vote on this again. Because we'll have the signs and we'll just try to keep them up and keep replacing them as they get snatched.
Thank you.
Courtney?
I would suggest you guys create a map of the whole area and note the locations where you intend to put the signs. Rather than just going out and looking for entrances. I think if you can map it out.
I just showed you.
Yeah,
Funny, that's what the schematic,
Yeah.
if you didn't see it, there were little dots around the border of BB Woods. That's where Alex is proposing.
I didn't see the detail. I just
Yeah.
saw. it.
Yeah, so
Alex,
that's
can
been
you
done.
email that to Courtney?
Yeah, I'll give
Sorry about
Jen
that.
the
I-
presentation.
My eyesight isn't that good.
No worries, Court.
Kevin?
This may be a stupid question. I really don't want to ask it. We have the authority to allow this.
Yes. The property is under the care and control of the Conservation Commission, and it's in the deed that there's no hunting. This is absolutely an acceptable vote. by the
It's in the
property.
care. Good time. Fine. I'm fine.
Betsy?
I'd like to make a motion to allow Alex to organize this and put up those signs
And
Bird
prohibit hunting in BB Woods.
to prohibit hunting in BB Woods.
Are we allowing the
And Peterson
300 committee to
Farm.
do it?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, well,
Alex.
you said
She's
Alex.
the land manager for the 300
I
committee.
know, but you, just wondering, person or committee.
Well, I'll second the motion to be able to post no hunting signs on the BB Woods and Peterson Farm.
Man. All right, anything else? Anybody want to? Never mind. I'm going to be mean. All right. We have a motion and a second to allow the installation of signs at BB Woods, Peterson Farm to post no hunting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve,
No,
it is unanimous. Thank you, Alex.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, next up, we don't have any minutes. Next up is requests for determination of applicability. First up, Cape Cod Condominium Trust, 28 Cape Cod Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to flush cut 7 black cherry trees.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the
Oh,
applicant has
yes.
requested continuance until September 14th.
So moved.
Bird second.
Sorry, Alyssa, I wasn't fast enough. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this request until 9:14. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 14. Next up, Keith and Isabel Bess, 34 B Acres Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an existing deck and to construct a new, slightly larger deck. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
O'Brien,
Second.
why isn't this an NOI? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That was for Mike's benefit. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments besides my stupid remarks? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa,
Right, tall guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Michael and Regina Ryan, 140 Associates Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to treat an area of Japanese knotweed. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move. And I have a question when the time.
Patton, second.
What's the methodology?
Let me look here, Courtney. They're going to treat it with, oh, I gotta pronounce it, glyphosate. We did, this is by Genix Studio, and we were in touch with them. This is the appropriate time frame to treat Japanese knotweed during the year. This is not permitting the removal or restoration, but a notice of intent will be filed soon to deal with the rest of it.
Thank you.
Two questions, please.
Melissa,
So, is this going to be cut and dab, or is it going to be just spray on leaves? I think that's what Courtney was getting on.
They didn't specify.
And I'm hoping we can update the RDA briefing to say the herbicide applications shall be completed by Massachusetts state licensed. Blah, blah, blah. Shall,
Mr.
not should,
Chairman.
but shall.
Mr. Chairman, I just promoted Angela Tanner up. She is with Genix Studio. Maybe she can answer Melissa's question. She had her hand raised.
Hi, Angela Tanner for the record from Genix Studio. The notes on the diagram that we submitted under knotweed management notes say inject. It's by injection that we're planning on doing the knotweed.
Thank you, Angela.
thank you. Anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Hi, Tall Guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, John G. Butt, 41 Butte, 41 Mary Emanuel Way, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to revise the previously approved plans associated with Mass DEP number 25-4520 to include the addition of a one-car garage. Ms. Bergeron.
The applicant has withdrawn their application.
Thank you. Next up, continued requests for determination of applicability. Wild Harbor Estates Homeowners Council Trust, 163 Birch Lane, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.1810B. Ms. Bergeron?
I know we've asked for a few continuances on this one. I'm going to ask for one more. It will be to September 14th. The arborist had a last minute change in plans and couldn't meet.
Is it to
So
locate the corridor?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
You need the arborist to locate the corridor, is that it?
Yes, we require an on-site with the certified arborist prior to approving the work, just so we're all on the same page and know the corridor that will be trimmed.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, somebody made the motion, but I wasn't paying attention.
I did. Thank you, Jamie.
Right, Tall,
Thank you.
second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to continue this till 9:14. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Right, Tall Guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 9:14. Next up, sorry if I get this wrong, Nicholas Daiso, 105 Meadow Neck Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.1810B. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so move.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Right, Tall Guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. All right, next up, our requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes, so I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. Now, I'm gonna ask for a motion and a second to take 2 items out of order. We're gonna move number 2 Providence Street. Do I have that right?
Correct.
We're asking to move 2 Providence Street to the head of the line, and I would like to take number 15 Rock Street next. And then we'll go back to the original order. Not many people request changes, so I don't think it's totally
I'll
out of
I'll make a motion to move 2 Providence Street and 15 Rock Street to the head of the line.
Bird second.
All right. Yeah, and this motion and second is to move 2 things out of sequence. So we have a motion and a second. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Melissa,
Tug eye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have moved number 2 and number 15 to the head of the line. So, without further delay, we have, bear with me, I gotta read the legalese, even though I just kind of abbreviated it. Where am I? All right. First up, Robert Tobias. Number 2, Providence Street, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a fiber roll system, conduct invasive species management and restoration, restore a coastal bank, and enhance the buffer to the coastal bank. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mike Borselli and Teresa Sprague up to present the continued project.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate your indulgence in allowing us to go first. I represent.
You're going last next week, so don't worry about it.
I represent the applicant Robert Tobias along with Teresa Sprague. This is a continued hearing. It's a very minor change or revision requested at the original public hearing. And I'll, with your permission, briefly share my screen.
Yes, sir.
The minor change we made to our plan was to measure the location of an existing cherry tree, which we have shown it's in this area of the lot. It was not on the original plan that you reviewed. In addition to that, Teresa modified the restoration plan in the configuration of the landscape. I'm here for any questions, and I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Teresa.
Thank you. Ms. Sprague, how are you?
Good, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design on behalf of Mr. Tobias. With your permission, I can share my screen quickly and discuss the changes that we've made.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Here. Okay. Basically what we've done very quickly is we have increased the vegetated area. So we're showing the cherry tree on the site plan. Of course, the cherry tree, the canopy is quite a bit larger than what's shown here as a symbol for that tree on the plan. We have increased the vegetated buffer from previously from 1,300 square feet to 1,643 square feet. We decreased the area of the proposed fescue clover lawn from 628 square feet that was proposed previously to 290 square feet. So I'm happy to answer. We've increased the number of shrubs from 78 to 102 to reduce that area. Again, we're removing vegetation, invasive vegetation, but more significantly, garden debris, old boats, concrete, and a significant amount of debris in that northwestern corner of the property, replanting that all with shrubs and just leaving a small area of lawn where the invasive species are currently located, just to allow a little bit more lawn area. We've removed about 13 feet of lawn from the top of the coastal bank to create a vegetated buffer. The majority of this project, really what this is about, is the fiber roll installation, the removal of existing DIY revetment, riprap, et cetera, from the coastal bank, and restoring that area, creating a stable angle of repose with core logs and planting that with salt marsh species. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the changes.
Thank you, Teresa. Jen?
Only question is, and Teresa, if you already answered this, I apologize. I was just trying to figure something out. Is the area of lawn equivalent to the area of the garden?
I don't have an exact measurement on the garden area. It's probably within, 50 square feet or so.
Okay. The staff would just recommend that the new lawn area be equivalent to that cleared garden area.
Okay.
That's all, Mr. Chairman, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
Ms. Bergeron?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy?
No comments.
Okay. Courtney?
Heard, no comments.
Don't get ahead of yourself here. Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Melissa?
No comments.
Steve?
No comments. Thanks for working it out.
My sentiment exactly. All right, Jen, is there anything, I'm going to slander this, I'm sorry, Deirdre Holtmeyer?
I know for some reason she's showing up in the panelists in the little squares, but not in the list, so I can't get out.
Hold on.
Okay. Now let me see if I can do this. I'm going to attempt to move her back into.
Oh, is here.
Hello.
Hi. I'm not sure.
Nope, we just lost her.
I just put her back into the attendees.
What was she up for?
I don't know.
She just got stuck there.
She just got stuck there I don't know how it happened. Because
Deirdre, thanks for visiting. All right.
We'll get you in a few minutes.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Heard, second.
All right. Is there anything further? All right. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa?
Freytag, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much for allowing us to go first. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
All right, next up, and as a reminder, we've taken two NOIs out of order. So if it's confusing to anybody, I apologize. Next up is Barbara Good Tui, trustee, 15 Rock Street, nominee trust, 15 Rock Street, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct an addition and to replace existing pavement with lawn and gravel pave. Jen?
I'm attempting to promote Tom Bunker up to present his project.
Okay, before we go any further, the quorum does not include Courtney, Maury, who's not here, and Melissa. Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir. Thank you for working with us to move this one up a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So lucky I ran over from my house to
I thought
make sure things were in order.
Sorry.
Teachers and I were in the middle of cooking dinner.
Jamie.
But here I am. Yeah, for the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, and we prepared this plan. The original was done in April and filed, and was sent home to think about it. I took more time to look at the aerial photos. If I may share my screen, I'll start describing the project.
Yes, sir.
So for those, I guess if you're all in the quorum, you know about the project somewhat, but I'll refresh your. It's on Rock Street in Silver Beach area, fronts on Buzzards Bay, or it might be called Wild Harbor, land under the ocean, land subject to tidal action, nice coastal beach along here. There's a concrete seawall along many of the houses along here, which in this case, or in all the cases here, forms a coastal bank. And most or all of the houses along this stretch also have some form of paved patio between the seawall and their house here. And you can see the existing house. What I've colored in this kind of olivey green is the existing lawn right here and a little bit right here. And everything else on the property, this speckled area and it's supposed to be a green, but it came out kind of blue, is currently paved with pavers. The entire site is in a velocity zone. The seaward, half of the lot is in velocity zone VE elevation 18, and the landward half is in VE elevation 17. This velocity zone and then the Falmouth velocity zone are further landward of Rock Street. So we don't have that demarcation line shown on the plan. We have the A zones of land under the ocean, land subject to tidal action. There's A zone. It's not a color. Coastal Bank Zone A is through here, right toward along the back side of the house. Then the Zone B's and the furthest Zone B, Coastal Beach, and Coastal Bank Zone B. So everything in the house and forward is in a Zone A. Everything landward of the house is in a Zone B. And I took more time to look through the aerial photographs. I have a narrative here about what I just explained about the zones A and B. Went back to the 1975 aerial photographs and had to go visit the engineer's office. So what I have labeled on this plan here is that there's a grass area here along the north property line that is much larger than what's there now. And I wasn't quite sure of it, but this darker area is a newer paved area, but newer meaning pre-1975. And then the lighter area is existing older pavement. And there's a patch of concrete in here. And a cedar tree, and there's some trees along here. The thing that's hard about this picture is that the airplane was seaward of here, and so where you're looking at the face of the house, you can't see what's on the landward side of the house. But everything is there in 1975 that used to be there, and the next aerial photograph 30 years later, but you can still see the darker pavement, the older driveway, and now this driveway has part of this grass area is missing right here, but the tree and the row of trees pointed out on the previous, and there was a tree in the stockade fence right along through here, this shadow line right here, the trees in the stockade fence. And again, the lawn area here, which is bigger than what exists now. And this existing lawn area here and the deck that's been there this whole time. This is a ground shot from 2011 that shows it the same conditions from 2005. So 6 years later, I have this diminished lawn area along the north property line. Some cedar trees here, and you can actually see what's probably the seam where this area right here used to be the lawn area, which got repaved to make a wider driveway in this location, and then the larger lawn area on the left side of the driveway. And then in 2009, there's just a narrow strip of grass across the north property line, and this central lawn has gotten smaller, and the paved area has gotten larger. So now this is a one big expanse. Not 2009, I meant 2019. One kind of big expanse of pavement, which is like what's there today, and all you can see the changes that happened. And so go back to this plan here on showed you in the 1975 photo, there was an area of pavement right back here. It's just closed it. Hold on. This white area right here was paved, which is this line in the concrete area, which is also visible in the behind these cedar trees, the concrete area. Anyway, this is the size of the lawn area and cedar trees as best I could do in 1975. And there was a stockade fence and some cedar trees along here in 1975 and 2005. So since that time, all of this hatched area has been paved. And this area, separated by this red line, and then down here has been paved. This area, even though it's hard to see in 1975, I believe it was there as a paved area right here. And of course, this grass was always there, and this is the remnants of the grass that was there in 1975 also. So what we're proposing to do is, well, the main purpose of this is to add this addition, which is 190 square feet, which is under the 200 square feet allowed in a velocity zone. And this area, the pavement will be removed and put back with loam and grass seed. And this area is proposed to remain at 345 square feet here. And this area is, actually going to line it, put a line around it, calculated area is 350 square feet right here. So we're going to convert this to grass, pick up all the pavers, make it grass, and leave the pavers here. Now this is replacement, it's not mitigation. It's a reminder when we first came on here back in April, and another we tried previously is one that was denied. This area the addition is not creating more impervious surface because this area was all paved back then. And there were 5 cedar trees along here, and we are putting the 5 cedar trees, 4 of them in this front grass area, and the 5th one over here, keeping it 5 feet away from this property line, this location. And the trees are not under the wires going to the house or going to the neighbor's house. And so this, I believe, is putting it, restoring it to the amount of grass that was there in 1975, but just in different locations, and adding the addition on top of where it was paved in 1975 also. So that is, that's my description. I will take questions.
Thank you, Tom. Jen?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
I'll ask her. Ms. Bergeron?
I do not. Thank you.
All right. Steve, we'll start with you.
All right, this has been around for a while. The staff originally wanted everything restored, and now they're okay with this plan. I just want to verify that. I could be okay with this plan.
Tom, can you put your plan back up for me, please? You are taking most of the front out, right, Tom?
All the paving between the house and the street.
Yeah.
So all of this that's colored various shades of green will be unpaved grass.
And that was where can you show, Steve, where that patio, the pavers that the staff had concerns with prior were in the middle between the house and the street?
This area right here, this patio was remaining. We've been through many iterations of this, but this patio was proposed to remain here. The original one was turned down because we had mitigation planting not in the A zone, where we had this full of planting here, and that got denied.
So, Steve, they are kind of doing what the staff had asked, is remove all that paving.
Thank you. I thought you wanted to address the 345 square feet to the north there at the top.
This 345 is 345 square feet that was of added coverage. This area directly behind the house was historically paved, and it's now going to become grass. So this area, actually the area behind the house is roughly 5 square feet bigger of grass area rather than the area of pavement to remain.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm okay now, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Kevin?
Oddly enough, it makes sense now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's a good compromise. Tom, the 345 square feet, is that gravel pave? I don't remember, to be honest with you. Is it pavers?
No, right now it's all pavers.
Okay.
And it is to remain that way. We had a gravel pave in a previous one, but not now.
Okay, that's what I remember. Okay.
Yes.
Betsy.
So the plan is fine. I just have a concern with the placement of the cedar trees.
Yeah.
Because that is kind of a windy area, and they had previously been kind of tucked up by the house. I'm just wondering why they're stuck out back in a hurricane zone again. Or whirlwind zone, I should say.
It's my opinion that the area where they were is windier through the whole winter. A northwest wind, I can put that up. They were
because it funnels through there?
Yes, between these two houses. So a northwest wind would be coming through this way and drying out these cedar trees, and I put it here. We thought it'd be further from the wind.
Yeah, I mean, just have to have them swell and hope they can grow up strong.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's fine.
All right. Anything else from the commission?
Looking for a motion?
Not yet. Melissa?
I know I'm not in the quorum voting on this, but might I ask a couple of technical or tactical questions of the Concom? on this?
She can, she's like, she's a person in the audience.
Well, don't put it down.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Two questions. One, why, and pardon me, Tom, for asking this. Why is it that we're not asking for mitigation plantings when obviously these trees have come down in the past or have been removed?
Well, mitigation, technically mitigation is required either 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 for an increase in coverage.
Yeah.
And in this case, we're not increasing coverage. So the trees came down some time ago and we're replacing the trees, but it's not technically mitigation, and putting the lawn in is just putting lawn back where, or putting the same amount of lawn back how that used to be there. It's not under the mitigation requirements.
Okay, so if the town had noticed before you folks had made this application that these trees were missing, we could have gone in and asked for remediation plantings or something like that. Okay,
Enforcement order.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So we got away with this one, I guess. And then also regarding order of applications for things. I mean, I'm looking at these plans for this addition, and I noticed that it's far within the 10-foot setback from property lines. Do we have any? I mean, I assume we don't have any say in that. And do people who are in front of the Concom then say that we've approved the plans to the town building committee and then they take that into consideration, or no? Okay.
Yeah, we have no, Melissa, that if, it's not, if a plan isn't in accordance with zoning, then the applicant is going to go to zoning because they'll get caught at the building permit level.
Okay.
If I may,
The Concom
this is actually applied to the ZBA at the time of the original hearing that was when it was denied, but then the ZBA approved the plan with the addition of this location.
Okay.
I was just trying to catch up with what the ZBA has done.
Okay, I was just wondering what the order was in this thing. Okay, great, thanks. Sorry to draw out the meeting.
All good. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
Oh, no, you can't second, Courtney.
Yeah.
O'Brien second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. I'll see you later tonight.
No dinner for you tonight, Tom?
I'll try to squeeze it in between hearings.
We kind of threw the wrench into that works.
Yeah, really.
Sorry.
All right. So we're going to go back to the original agenda, and I apologize for anybody that was inconvenienced. We appreciate your indulgence. Next up, Peter and Valerie Mazzina, 127 Shorewood Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management, to construct and maintain a pier, ramp, and float in Great Pond, and to request a variant from FWR 10.16 1D1. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Mark Dibb from Cape and Islands Engineering up, and I'm assuming Brian Wall to present the variance request. Mark, is there anybody else on your project team I'm promoting up?
I believe the applicant may be in attendance, but they were going to just watch for now.
That's fine.
They can raise their hand if they want to.
Okay, so it's just you and Brian, correct?
Correct.
All right.
All right. Mr. Dibb, you're up.
Good evening, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering, and attorney Brian Wall will also speak after my presentation for 127 Shorewood Drive for Peter and Valerie Messina. We filed a notice of intent and variance request for the construction of a new pier, ramp and float, and invasive species Phragmites management. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to go through the existing and proposed conditions, and then we'll go to staff comments. So the site is at 127 Shorewood Drive. This is Shorewood Drive on this side, Great Pond to the west, and residential houses to the north and south. The project, the existing conditions consists of an existing single-family home, which then has some yard and lawn area. And then there's a coastal bank in this area, to salt marsh, and then some land under the ocean. And then there's also salt marsh out in the water, and then more land under ocean as you go into Great Pond. Those areas, this salt marsh is approximately 18 feet wide with about 33 feet here on land under ocean, and then back into this piece of salt marsh, which is about 70 feet in the area of the proposed pier. The proposed pier consists of, just zoom out and over to the detail. The proposed pier consists of a landing on above the coastal bank. So the upland area is the end of the bank. It's been designed with aluminum sections of one 20-foot section. The rest are 40-foot sections to minimize pier piles. So there is a 40-foot section that spans both the bank and the salt marsh, to 4 piles in this area and land under ocean, and then back to 40-foot sections to span the rest of the salt marsh and get out to the depth of over 3 feet at mean low water. There are 2 piles, as noted right here, that are in the salt marsh, so that is the only salt marsh disturbance for the project. And so therefore, the variance that's being requested is for the overall length in lieu of 100 feet. The overall length is roughly 220 feet from mean high water. And just to put that in perspective, a comparison pier, if we did have room to fit a standard timber pier of about 100-foot long, and 16-foot sections, would require even 2 more piles than this proposed configuration. So we've made every effort to minimize disturbance by piles and create a project that spans as far as we can and limits impacts. Along with the pier, there is a small area along the frontage of the property where Phragmites are starting to fill in. We'd like to use this project also to eradicate those Phragmites, and through an invasive species management plan for the coastal bank area in front of the property. We're also proposing to donate to the Shellfish Mitigation fee at a rate for the 16 piles, which is a total of about $2,400. A shellfish study was performed by Norman Dew for the project. It did find minimal shellfish under the threshold that would allow this pier to be built, and the Shellfish Constable did review that and felt that the report was in order and met the requirements within the shellfish report requirements. And that essentially summarizes the project. I do know there's a staff report and DMF letter. I will let staff talk about that report, and if I can just have a chance to respond after that, and then I will we can hand it over to Brian Wall as well.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Brian Wall and I represent the applicants together with Mark Dibbs. As Mark said, the applicants are seeking a variance in this particular case because the proposed pier exceeds the length requirement of 100 feet. The regulations at FWR 10.13 do provide a process for variances, and we have applied under that section, and I've submitted a written letter with some other documents attached. I'm going to try to summarize that, and I'll try to be brief. In order to be eligible for a variance, an applicant must first demonstrate a hardship. The term hardship is defined in your regulations, and I'm going to paraphrase. It essentially says that a hardship exists when the application of the regulations to property becomes oppressive or arbitrary or confiscatory due to characteristics of the property. In this particular case, the applicants contend that they have a hardship because of the unique configuration of the shoreline adjacent to their property. As Mark described, it's rather shallow near the property, and there's an island of salt marsh offshore, which creates different high and low water marks. And in order to meet the depth requirement, the applicant must get past that marsh and into deeper water. Once a hardship has been demonstrated, the variance criteria, there are 5. And what I'm going to do is just briefly address, I'll mention the criteria and then address why we believe the applicants meet the criteria. The first one's very simple. The project must not meet one of the performance standards. And this particular project does not meet 10.161D1. That regulation requires docks not to exceed 100 feet beyond mean high tide or 100 feet beyond the landward edge of the salt marsh. And as described earlier, we have to have a 243-foot dock get past that salt marsh and into deeper water. The second criteria is that mitigating measures must be proposed that will allow the project to be conditioned so as to contribute to the protection of the resource areas. And in this case, the applicants are proposing 3 types of mitigation. The first is the design of the pier itself. As Mark described, it's not a timber pile pier, it's an aluminum gangway pier. And the reason we proposed that was to have the longer spans to reduce the impacts. And again, as Mark already mentioned, if this were a 100-foot timber pile pier, it would require 18 piles, but this is 16. So even though it's longer, it has less impact than a traditional conventional timber pile pier. The second form of mitigation is the shellfish mitigation. The applicant is proposing $2,400 to be contributed to the town's shellfish donation account. And this is based upon $150 per pile. And this will be used as directed by the town of Falmouth Marine and Environmental Services Division for seeding purposes. We believe that this will also help improve the shellfish resource and also the water quality in the town. And the third form of mitigation being proposed is the Phragmites Eradication. There are about 33 square feet of Phragmites on the property, and it's beginning to spread, and the applicants have proposed to eradicate and manage the Phragmites there. The third criteria is also relatively straightforward. The project must not create a nuisance. And in this particular case, the dock has been designed to fit in with the other docks. It's essentially the same length as the pier. To the south of it, it does not interfere with navigation and therefore will not constitute a nuisance. The fourth criteria is that the applicant's hardship cannot be created by the applicant. And in this case, it's a natural condition offshore. It was not created by the applicant or the applicant's agents. The fifth and final criteria is that the resource areas delineated in the regulations will be better protected if the project is allowed than if it's denied, or the project has an overriding public benefit. I would focus on the word or. It's a 2-part test, but you only have to meet one. But in this case, we contend that the applicants meet both. So with regard to the first part, the resource areas are better protected if the proposed project is allowed. We contend that the design of the dock will have less impact than a 100-foot regular pier. The shellfish mitigation will help improve water quality and the shellfish resources of the town. The dock will eliminate foot traffic down the side of the coastal bank over the salt marsh. And the invasive species eradication and management will rid the area of the Phragmites. We contend that these measures will make the resource areas better protected with the project than without. Furthermore, the same types of mitigation measures that we propose to make the resource areas better protected also serve a public interest, and therefore we contend that we meet the second prong of the test as well. That's our presentation with regard to the criteria, but I would add that we also attached to the request copies of 3 permits from nearby properties to the south and the north. As you saw when Mark put up the plan, there are a number of docks in this particular area, and we've submitted these orders of conditions to help the commission understand our case a little bit better. Each one of the properties that has a dock has the very same salt marsh island offshore. And in each one of those 3 cases that I've mentioned, each dock was approved with a variance. And in each one of those cases, the commission found that the configuration of the shoreline constituted a hardship. So we would contend that since the commission has found that previously, it should act consistently and similarly find that this shoreline creates a hardship. Furthermore, in each one of those cases, the applicants proposed as mitigation Phragmites eradication and shellfish contributions and designed their docks with an aluminum gangway system. So in this particular case, the applicants were aware of these and they modeled their application specifically after these projects in order to persuade the commission to grant a variance to them in this particular case. I do note that the staff has issued a report in this matter, and staff has pointed out that in each one of those 3 cases, it also involved the replacement of an older dock. And that is definitely true. And I would agree with staff that it was certainly a factor in the commission's decision-making process that an older dock was being replaced. But a careful review of the permits also confirms that the commission made a very separate and independent finding that the shoreline constituted a hardship. And also the commission accepted the shellfish mitigation and the Phragmites mitigation as adequate mitigation measures. And so we would ask that the commission look to those permits as guidance and be persuaded that a variance should be granted in this particular case. That's our presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Jamie, you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Sorry about that. Mrs. Lincoln, you're up.
Okay. I think the staff's staff report pretty much outlines our position on this. Unfortunately, we cannot support this application because of the other 3 that Brian cited did have existing structures. And I know that, that was a big factor when the board reviewed applications for new docks. The board was looking for a way for the properties that had previously had use of docks to continue to use them and to try to better protect the resource areas than what was originally there. The difference in this one is that Brian used the term, and let me get it correct. Mitigating measures are proposed by the applicant that will allow the project to be conditioned so to contribute to the protection. But right after the statement of contribute to the protection, we're reducing the impacts. So there's still going to be impacts to the salt marsh. And if you review the aerial photography from 2005 to now, there are clear impacts to that salt marsh after these 3 long additional docks went in. So, we do feel like the marsh is being adversely affected because of boat traffic. And the installation of yet another 230-foot long dock in that area will continue to degrade the marsh in the staff's mind. as the other three have clearly shown over the course of the last 15 or so years. Just a couple of other things. We don't believe that removing 33 square feet of Phragmites, should be considered an overriding public interest. This is for the benefit of the property owner and the property owner only. It does not benefit the public that the property owner removes 33 square feet of Phragmites on their own property. And again, just to reiterate that the 3 docks cited, and Brian's right, I mean, there were docks on there. So I know that factored into the commission's decision. And I think that's all we have. It's pretty, we pretty much laid out our concerns and our viewpoints in the staff report. Alyssa, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
I just had 2 technicalities to note. Jen, I did not notice today that we received the DMF letter that was mentioned during the presentation. Did you receive that in your email? And if not, Mark, could you forward that to us so we have it in our records and can review their comments?
Yeah, I can forward that.
Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you.
And I think the other one is, Alyssa, we don't have the DEP number yet.
Right.
So we're going to have to continue this anyway. So Mark, it'll give us a chance to review that DMF letter.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Mark?
I would like to make just one comment regarding the aerial photographs supplied in the staff report. Again, I'm a civil engineer, not a scientist. So I did want to just make a note that over the last 50 years, I'll put it as a general consensus in the scientific field that there may be between 4 inches and 8 inches of sea level rise over that time. I do feel that could be an important factor in why this salt marsh is smaller than it was 50 years ago, other than just, that number of 6 inches and available data on the buzzardsbay.org title data website, having a salt marsh of a range of about 1.5 feet from mean high tide line to low mean sea level. 6 inches could greatly affect the salt marsh. So I just wanted to make a note of that as another potential reason for the change in the salt marsh. That's all. Thank you.
And I would like to point out, if you do look at the 75 aerial, and I was more focusing, Mark, on the aerial photography from 2005 to now. But if you look at this, if you're looking at, want to go back a few more years, we can. If you look at the 75 aerial and you kind of look at where back in, I think it was the 90s, where that first long dock went, obviously there was some impact to that marsh when that dock went in. That was not sea level rise that did that. That was probably the installation of that dock. And if you compare 2005 to 2022, there clearly are impacts. It could be a range of things, but that marsh was clearly impacted after those 200-foot long docks went in. And that's what, the commission is charged with, protecting those areas. And I just unfortunately feel that, adding another one is just not going to contribute to the protection of that resource at all. I understand the commission's thought process in issuing the previous 3 orders, again, because there were existing docks on the site, and that is just was a huge factor. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right, commissioner comments. I'm going to start. Mark, you stated something to the effect of, if you did a conventional dock, it would be more piles.
Yes, a typical span of a lumber dock would be 16 feet, and basically to, if even at your max length of 100 feet, that would require 18 piles versus our scenario with the 40-foot gangways, we're only needing 16 piles.
So you'd be unwilling to do aluminum gangways if it was less than 242 feet?
That would be an option for any pier.
Thank you. Evan.
I really don't have any questions other than to say I think I am leaning towards the logic of staff on this.
Fair enough.
Obviously, I understand previous board selection reasons for their decision. This is somewhat different.
All right. Melissa?
I'd like to ask something that sounds perhaps a little cheeky, but when the Messinas bought this place, was the salt marsh there? Yes, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
The property was purchased, our sales records on GIS indicate the property was purchased in 2019.
19? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Steve?
Thank you. I'm looking at the abutting properties and trying to evaluate. If this was 100 foot and didn't require a variance, would staff's opinion be different?
I wouldn't know, Steve, unless I saw it on a plan and I saw the impacts to the resource areas.
It's clear that there's been a change in the area, but the cause of it is assigning it to the docks seems just a guess, I would say. It could be because there's more activity from the shoreline that's actually causing the damage, or some other factor. Why do you think the docks cause the damage to the salt marsh? And being beyond that last piece of salt marsh would obviously be better.
Hold on. Jenny, are you answering that, or are we moving on? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I mean, if Steve would like me to try to answer, I mean, we're just looking at what the marshes were like back in 2005. Steve, when we permitted two, and the board permitted two of them, I think in 2006, 2007, don't quote me, maybe even 2005. I think two of them when I first got here. And there just clearly has been a change in that area. And yes, sea level rise could be one contributing factor, but the other factor and the other change to the environment in this area was the docks. So it's a guess. I'm making an educated guess at the impact from the boat traffic and the additional boat traffic in this area may have had an impact to the marsh.
But if the boats are out at the end of the docks, then that would have less boat traffic in the marsh area.
Well, you have wash.
That's just a statement. I'm asking for an answer.
Okay, that's fine.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Betsy.
I was on the board. In fact, I think it was before Jen was on the board when all these came. And I can tell you that all three previous applications, as Jen said, had docks. And the choice was allow them to rebuild the dock that was there, that was in adequate water depth.
Inadequate water depth.
Inadequate. That was not an adequate, in inadequate water depth. Or allow them to do a design, and the docks all went to the end of that little island, right? And that's where they ended. Or allow them to get a variance and for a new design that got them in deeper water. And so that was the decision. Either rebuild an old dock that would definitely have impact on the environment, or do this that would have less impact on the environment. And so yeah, to get to what one of the things Jen said about one of Brian's comments, it's going to have an impact. These are going to have impacts. And as to what the impact might be, where are you, Steve? Part of what happens with the pilings is the tide goes in and out. That's going to change the water current around those pilings, which potentially could change where the sediment ends up. And that all helps to the stabilization of a salt marsh. The salt marsh needs sediment. And as Mark said, as sea level rises, you need to have a continual source of sediment so that the salt marsh can build up over time. Otherwise it's going to drown. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Courtney?
And I'd like to, through the chair, I'd like to ask Mr. Wall if he would mind rereading his variance request, since I'm old and have a rather limited memory. And so we've had some other stuff in between. So if you could reread that letter, because I just want to ask some questions, but I need to be familiar with what your contention is as to why a variance, a hardship is necessary.
Sure, Courtney, through the chair, just to understand the request, do you want me to go through the entire presentation again, or?
Yeah, just not the whole, just read your variance request, that's all.
Why you should be granted the variance request.
Yeah.
Well, our contention is that you have to have a hardship, and then there's 5 criteria, and we believe that we have a hardship and that we meet the criteria. And I'm happy to go through it again, but I just
just what is the basis for your request, your statement that there's a hardship here?
Sure, that one I think is very straightforward, Courtney. The hardship is that the application of the regulations, specifically the length limitation applied literally to this property, creates a hardship because it's oppressive and confiscatory and arbitrary. And with regard to that, I know that there's been some discussion about the other permits and whether or not the prior existence of a dock had an impact. But I will say this, if you go back and look at each one of those 3 permits, there's a standalone finding that says, and I'll just read you from one of them, the applicant's lot has an unusual shoreline. There is a marsh island just offshore, and the slope from the shore outward is extremely shallow, necessitating, in this case, a length of 160 feet. The commission found that that is a hardship. We have exactly the same condition as those other 3 permits. And in each case, the commission found it was a hardship. So our contention is we have a hardship.
Okay, so your argument is that your client has a hardship because of the topography? Is that essentially what you're saying?
I would say yes, the topography, the depth, and the location of this salt marsh island offshore.
Okay. Now I think there was previous testimony that he purchased this in 2019.
Yes, actually, I think they purchased in 2021, but I don't think that that's relevant. If you go to the hardship.
I didn't ask you whether you thought it was relevant. I asked you about when he purchased it.
They purchased it in 2021 is my understanding.
Thank you. And Marsh was there when he bought it?
Yes, and as the regulations state, the hardship.
That's all I want to know. The Marsh was there when he bought it, correct?
You know, it's not a
Yes
court
or
of
no?
law. Courtney, this is not a court of law, and I respectfully.
I'm asking you a question.
The conditions existed.
Was the Marsh there when he bought it?
It absolutely was, Courtney, and also the regulations.
Thank you.
say
That's all I wanted to know. The Marsh was
hardship-
there when he bought it.
With all due respect, I'd like some courtesy, Courtney. The The regulations are clear that the condition has to relate to the property, not to the applicant himself. It has to be to the property. So it doesn't matter when they bought it.
So you're suggesting that anybody who bought this would be faced with a hardship?
Yeah, I think what you're implying
I
is
thought
that
there was a principle called buyer beware.
that's another concept. It's not applicable. You have a very specific definition of hardship. That might be true in zoning or some other area of the law, but in wetlands, the issue is, does it relate to the property? And prior knowledge doesn't matter. It's not relevant.
In my mind, it's pretty relevant because your client is claiming a hardship based on the property he has. Well, he bought the property. The salt marsh existed when he bought it. And so he went in with his eyes open. I'm sorry. I'm not very convinced. Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right. Round two, Melissa first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I've been assuming something, but it hasn't been stated yet. And this is yet another kind of obvious question. On the plans, there's some kayak racks, but never asked what the actual purpose of the dock was going to be. What do the Messinas plan to do with this dock?
It's, I believe, to moor a boat out at the end on the float, as well as use kayaks at those kayak racks.
So the kayak racks, though, are between the coastal bank and the marsh, correct? The kayak racks are not out beyond the marsh.
Correct. They are over, suspended in the air above at the railing height at the marsh area.
So the kayaks would still be deployed behind the marsh and would still have to navigate through the marsh that's been degrading over the past 20 years.
Correct. They would navigate through the open waters in between the marsh areas.
Okay, and then the type of vessel that they plan to put at the end of the dock, is it going to be a motor vessel or a sail vessel?
I don't have that specific information, but I assume a motor vessel.
There's a big difference there. If you're generating wake or if you're taking off with wind, setting sail with wind. Okay. So they plan to put a vessel at the end of it, one that would create wake that would then irritate the marsh more than it is right now.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond to that comment?
Sure.
First of all, a correction. I think Mark was correct that the kayaks could navigate through the marsh, but the client has texted me and said they intend to launch them at the end off the float, so they would be away from the marsh. And secondly, with regard to the comment about the motorboat, I understand where you're coming from, but with all respect, what happens when boaters come into docks, there's supposed to be that navigation speed, which does not throw a wake at all.
Keywords, they're supposed to be. Yes, thank you.
Right, but it is in the boater's own interest because the boater doesn't manage the boat. They want to come in nice and slow and just basically kiss.
I'm aware. Thank you very much. It was just a question that we were assuming the usage of the dock, and I wanted to just learn what the use of the dock would be.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Ms. Bergeron.
I'm all set. Never mind. Thank you.
I thought I saw your hand up.
You did. I'm all set though.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. All right. So I'll offer one sentiment. If this was approved, would have to be a finding that the kayaks have to be launched off the end of the dock, not. I mean, if we allowed the dock, it would be to be protecting everything and kind of be counterproductive if you carried the kayaks across the marsh. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
I don't see anything in the public chat, Mr. Chairman. I don't see any hands raised either, so.
Okay.
We do need continuance because we lack a DEP number.
Yeah. All right, so is there anything further from the applicants?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman, but we would like to reserve our rights during the continuance period to kind of think about things. We might submit some supplemental information.
Okay, fair enough. Just want to give you the opportunity. All right, so everybody has commented and some got two turns. We have no public chat comments and we also have no DEP number. So I need a formal request from an applicant for a continuance.
I see Mark is muted. On behalf of the applicant, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request a continuance.
Thank you.
So move.
Brian, Brian and Mark, would you like the 14th or the 21st? If you do have the 14th, then your supplemental materials do need to be in by next Wednesday, and it's a holiday on Monday. So I don't know if you want a little bit more additional time than that.
Mark, are you available the 21st? I think we should have a little bit more time.
Yes, I'm available.
Could we have to the 21st, Jen?
Yes, of course.
I'll amend my motion to continue this to the 21st.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till 9/21. We'd be looking for a DEP number at that point and any further input from the applicants. So with that, I'm going to take the vote. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa.
Fragile guy.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this till September 21st. Thank you, Mr. Didd. Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Thank you, members of the commission, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.
Hi, Jen.
Okay. Oop. Okay.
All right. Next up, Paul C. Gordon, 257 Central Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a porch and a second story to the existing garage, to expand the capacity of the existing leaching field, to remove a portion of an unpermitted patio, and to install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, let me see if I can find Tom Bunker to promote him as panelist. Didn't give Tom time to eat dinner, Jamie.
I think we need time for a snack too.
Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir. Welcome
Thank you.
back.
Thank you. Had a nice dinner while you were discussing variances.
Thanks for running that in.
For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. And the first thing I'd like to point out is the, a question. Do you have the revised plan and narrative, which we submitted a week ago?
I do.
Okay. The
revised August 23rd.
Yeah, it's just that the public announcement, the public is based on the prior plan, where the septic system is no longer proposed to be enlarged on this plan.
That's fine, Tom. We had to post a public hearing notice before you submitted this, so our agenda kind of does have to match that public hearing notice, especially since this is a hearing. So it's fine that you've made revisions. We can just talk about them at the hearing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know that happens. I just thought I'd point that out. Yeah.
We have to
make sure I
keep
got it.
them the same.
Because when I first saw it, I had to ask my office if we actually submitted the plans. I'm never quite sure of these things. Anyway.
Yeah, we got them, Tom.
You got them. Thank you. With that, I will share my screen and tell you what it's all about.
All right.
Not that screen, this screen. This is just a print from the town GIS with the property highlighted. Goes from Central Ave on the eastern end of the property out to Bourne's Pond out here, and there's a little point of land sticking out into Bourne's Pond. and thus has resource areas are wrapping around quite a bit. Our survey here shows the existing house, existing house in here, and the existing garage, which was permitted in, I think, the year 2000. A certificate of compliance was issued in January of 2003, so it was, built in 2002, the garage. See, there's, we have land under the water body under Bourne's Pond here, salt marsh wrapping around the point all the way back to here, where there's a pier on the abutting property. And the salt marsh on the west end of the property is in a velocity flood zone. That's a VE elevation 14, and the 25-foot Falmouth velocity zone goes back to encompass the entire house. Behind that, it is flood zone AE elevation. Don't have it, elevation 12. Further landward. So we have here the salt marsh zone A. Comes around here, includes most of the developed area. Coastal bank zone A, and then coastal bank zone B. So all of this area is within zone A or zone B. There is a slope which exceeds 10-to-1 through this location. So the top of that 10-to-1 slope is a coastal bank, and that's shown by this line with the triangles along it here, and it rises up, goes along the back of the property or across the other property down to this location, and then we have the 50-foot zone A of that coastal bank in this location. When the garage was built, there was a certain amount of mitigation planting required, which I have shown in this other kind of green here, kind of a olivey green through here is their required mitigation. It is not all there at the moment. There's a little sliver of it right through here that is a deficit of planting from the 2002. And right here, there's a pathway going to steps down to a path in the marsh. And of course, the steps and stones were not approved on the original plan. There are also these steps going down this coastal bank here, which were not on the original plan. And then this patio was also built in this sandy, grassy area, not on the plan. The main point of this filing is to permit this bit of porch here, 5 by 12 feet, 60 square feet. And I have a table up here, which the existing offsets to the from the resource areas to the garage are the existing setbacks, and the proposed setbacks to the corner of the porch. So porch is up to 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet, or 1 to 3 feet further back, more distant than the garage is. So it does not, this porch is not closer to the resource area than the garage itself is. It's all in a zone A, so the 60 square feet requires 180 square feet of mitigation planting. The patio is closer to the resource area than the house. The closest point of the permitted structure is 27 feet. So we've cut this patio off at this location. There is 219 square feet of patio here. So we'll have them remove remove 161 square feet, which is this, and 58 square feet of the patio here is to remain, this little rectangle outside the door right here. And so that, I have a table of mitigation calculations somewhere on this page. Right there it is. So we have the 58 square feet of unpermitted patio to remain. The steps down to the marsh cover about 6 square feet. Steps of the northwest corner of the house about 30 square feet. Porch is 60 square feet. So we have increasing coverage of 154 square feet, which would require 462 square feet of mitigation planting. And there's a path in this path area here, which went through the mitigation area, added in another 21 square feet of mitigation or planting that would have to be done to make up for that path. We have a total of 485 square feet of mitigation required to balance the increased coverage. And that online table is about 53 to 62 shrubs, native shrubs would be required. And this, we have 192 square feet in this other shade of green here, 91 square feet, we're staying 10 feet away from the structure. We have here 91, here 192, and up here 202 square feet of mitigation in this area. The house on the plan from 2002, in which the garage was permitted, it was shown as a 3-bedroom house, and the plan, this is the plan. So I have the proposed garage, and there's the house and the mitigation planting wrapping around at that time, and the septic system here. The septic system was designed for a 4-bedroom flow, 4-bedroom capacity, 440 gallons per day. And at that time, the maximum accessory building height was 18 feet. And so there was, they built a floor up there, and the garage is all built to code, strong enough to, it already has a floor, so it's strong enough to support the floor. And there was, the zoning changed to allow the height, which was 18 feet high, was now 22 feet high. So they now want to add a taller roof here, basically, just to get more headroom in this. Well, this is the old plan. Add more headroom in here, basically with a taller roof, and add this porch. And so because this is a 3-bedroom house and this counts as a 1-bedroom, we had an internal error in saying in how many bedrooms were existing, but this is a 3-bedroom. The room above the garage is a 4th bedroom, and this is a 4-bedroom capacity septic system on here. And that is our project. Take this down and take questions.
Thank you, sir. Jen?
I don't have any questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Bergeron.
I'm all set as well. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy. Betsy, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Sorry.
So I only have one comment, and that is where the limit of work is to work where the garage is. There's vegetation there, and it'll have to be replaced. There's actually some nice bushes there.
Okay, yeah, we can.
So I mean, we can make a finding and a condition.
Yeah, as always, they'll need the work area around it, but make a finding and condition it to replant.
That's
Good.
all I have. Yep.
All right. Courtney,
No questions.
okay. Tom, you said the foundation in the building was already designed to carry a second floor. You have documentation to that effect?
You know, I had asked one of the contractors about that, and I'm not sure I ever got a letter. I mean, it's built, the foundation, you know, it's built whatever the requirements were for the building code in 2002, which was, you know, with 4-foot deep frost wall and all. And there is a floor there now, and it's just really just making a taller roof over what's there now.
Well, now you're making a habitable space.
Yeah, well, there is some habitable, but not much, but you're right. I
Well,
don't think,
all right, so just in fairness, I would want a finding in there that if, you know, you
Yeah.
suddenly get into the project, find out the foundation's inadequate, it's not an emergency on our part.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Thank you. Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Melissa?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Steve?
No questions. Thank you. Nice, clean
All right.
proposal. Thank you.
All right. Jen, do you have a DEP number?
I'm looking for one right now. Tom, did you get one?
I hope so. Let me see.
I'm looking.
DEP file number SE025-47.
Got it right here. I don't know why they're not uploading them on their portal anymore.
All right, so the bottom line is we have a
Yeah, we have
DEP
it.
number.
Yep, we do.
All right, is there any, Steve, did I skip you?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You did it,
Oh.
and I didn't have any questions.
I didn't put a check on your name. I would hate to not ask you. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Does not appear to be anything in the public chat function, Mr. Chairman.
All righty.
Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further.
I will, let me just say, I will procure a letter regarding the structure. Send that in.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Motion and a second to close the hearing. The vote, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa.
Right, hug eye.
Steve.
At night.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bunker.
Thank you and good night.
Night, Tom.
Night, Tom.
Yeah.
Time for dessert?
I hope so. We'll see what's cooking.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I think I have to cook it.
All right, next up, continued hearings under a notice of intent. Constance M. Ryan and Andrew Doyle, 151 T-Ticket Path, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to extend the existing revetment, construct access stairs, and nourish the bank. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Catherine Ricks up to present the project.
Hi, Catherine Ricks here on behalf of the applicants. Can I share my screen to do a presentation?
Sure.
One thing, Catherine, is there anybody else on your project team here tonight that you'd like me to promote?
No, there is not.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
See if this wants to work. Okay, so we are proposing to extend a revetment at 151 T-Ticket Road. And so we have the existing revetment and then there is a scarped bank, and we are proposing to extend the revetment in landward along the existing bank, not filling or pulling it out towards the water there, and then putting in access stairs, timber at the top, and the built-in granite steps on the portion that is on the revetment. Revetment goes approximately 32 feet along at the existing revetment height, which is about 8.5 feet NAVD. And then it will taper the last 39 feet, a gentle taper down to about 6-foot contour. And the access will be from the end of T-Ticket Road, which is the private road there. And the applicant has reached out to the neighbors, and they are in agreement with using that as the access for the project. And then this is just showing the scarping along the bank that's there. So that's the end of the revetment. You can see it's starting to have erosion underneath the rocks, which are falling at this point right at that edge. The rest of the revetment is holding stable. So this will go from that end towards the west. And here's another view of that at the other angle, looking towards where it will taper down. And this is our proposed cross section with the toe stones and then the primary, secondary stones that will start from where this picture, as you can see, the scarping at the top of the bank. And that's approximately where this will go, and fill will go in above it if needed. This is the site access. So the contractor would be removing the fence that's there and either putting a ramp or fill in there in order to access through the beach instead of going over the bank, or removing any vegetation in order to go over the bank. And then I know there was a staff report, so I'm going to address those questions now. And the one I'm going to address first just is the reason we recommend the extending of the rock revetment in this area is because there is very minimal dry beach. The mean high water goes almost, or is just about at the toe of the existing revetment. This revetment, the extension is landward of that. So we are not below mean high water, but we are very close. There'll be very minimal dry beach. And in that, with the cesium storm smart sheets, they really don't recommend using any of the biodegradable solutions in areas where there's minimal dry beach, because your biodegradable solutions will be continuously struck by the waves, but not just that, but inundated with the salt marsh and uncovered. And the biodegradable material degrades with sun exposure and with the salt marsh, with the saltwater inundation. And so instead of having continual maintenance every year and disturbance to the resource areas, we recommend the rock revetment in this area. And we're not going up to the base flood elevation. It's just going up to what the existing is because of where the scarping is being seen on the bank. It's about where that scarp is. And I'm going to stop sharing that so I can go to, let's see. It's not letting me escape out of that. Okay. And then I know we do have to go back, revise the plans to add the 25-foot velocity zone offset and remove the 50-foot salt marsh buffer and add the 100. And we'll revise that and submit that. And then there was the question on the PLS. So we didn't have a PLS stamp it because we didn't do a full property line survey, because they are deeded into that private roadway and we aren't going even to the approximate property line. So we're off of where they're deeded access to. So we didn't do we don't show any meets and bounds. We don't have any measurements off those property lines. So we didn't have a PLS stamp it. We do have a PLS in the office who does, has reviewed the existing conditions plan, but didn't stamp it because we don't have the full property line survey in this area. And then as for the nourishment, we have 30 cubic yards at construction. I didn't put annual in there because of that salt marsh that's there. We wouldn't want to continually put the 30 cubic yards, but we can put some sort of trigger point at the base of like the approximate beach elevation at this time to fill. If it gets lower than that, we wouldn't want to overfill and create too much movement of sediment over to the existing salt marsh. Minimal sediment movement onto salt marsh does help the salt marsh build. We just wouldn't want to inundate it with excessive nourishment in this area. And so we'd rather monitor over the years and determine how much could be put in each year instead of overdoing it. And then we did not submit it to DMF because this extension of the revetment is above mean high water, not below mean high water. And I think that addresses all the staff questions.
Thank you.
You're
Jen?
welcome.
Are the 30 cubic yards of beach nourishment going below mean water?
No, they would be on the revetment.
It would be on the revetment.
They would be placed over the base of the revetment.
So over the toe stones.
Yeah, the toe stones are up above the just the base of the revetment, not on the beach area, not below mean high water.
How is it going to stay on the revetment? That's what I'm kind of confused about.
It typically gets washed off pretty quickly, which is on most projects what we see is when you put the rock behind it, it gets washed off quickly. And unfortunately, we are typically required to do annual nourishments, and based on those Morris lines and those erosion rates, but those erosion rates are based on sediment that is in a coastal bank eroding and not sediment that's just placed on rock. So in this area, there aren't any, but we estimated the 30 that can definitely be revised. We don't want all of it washing over and causing any shoaling in that area on the salt marsh. So we're not set at that number. That was just our estimate.
So the staff just has concerns. The closest point to the top of the new extended revetment to the corner of the house is approximately, I think, what did I say, like 75 feet. So I'm not quite sure how this is going to aid in the protection of the house. I'm really.
So the revetment, this revetment extension is there to stabilize the bank in that area, to protect the edge of the other revetment from being undermined, and then also to be able to support the bank there and not have continual need for maintenance and repair if it was one of the softer solutions. That's why we recommend this.
Eroding coastal bank, if you did a return on the existing revetment, maybe you wouldn't need to put this larger extension on there.
I can further review and do more alternatives analysis.
Yeah, I mean, I
that's
would
requested.
love to see that, because I'm really not a proponent of coastal armoring. Unless, of course, it is clearly to protect a pre-78 existing house. In this case, that house is already protected by the existing revetment, so why add more revetment to the area? And if you could just maybe further expand on the beach nourishment. You said you'll do annual monitoring and determine how much sand is placed, but you don't have an area, where that'll be placed. Will that be placed on the revetment like the original 30 cubic yards?
It would depend on if you're seeing any massive erosion at the end or any of that.
Okay. And I think the board is going to ask you to have your PLS stamp the plan. It's just a protocol. And Falmouth, our director of DPW, likes all plans to be stamped by a PLS. And I think that is all I have, Mr. Chairman. I just don't feel in this case it's necessary to protect the existing house, because it is already being protected by a revetment. And if you read the regulations, coastal armoring of this sort is allowed specifically to protect a pre-existing prior to 1978 home.
Okay.
That's all.
Ms.
Unless
Bergeron.
anyone has anything to add, and we lost Betsy.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jen, you wouldn't support a soft solution either then, correct?
I mean, soft solution's better than the rock revetment. There she is. Betsy's back. I mean, either way, even a soft solution is not allowing that bank to erode the way it naturally would. But it is sometimes a better option than the rock revetment. In the case of a soft solution, you would need to add nourishment on it, so you would need to find a way to protect the marsh, as Ms. Rick said. The marsh is right there. We're going to need to protect the marsh, so you don't want to put too much sand out there. So it's a tricky situation.
Yep. Okay. Melissa,
So I've seen the spot. I understand that you want to put in a revetment, but all I know about erosion and beaches and sediment movement and having grown up in an area on a bluff, coastal bluff, could you please explain to me why you want to put in this wall, this revetment? It seems completely counterintuitive. I mean, the revetment will eliminate the beach. I mean, it's going to be detrimental to the neighbors' beaches, and you'll lose your sand beach because the sediment won't be moving. So please, why does this want to go in again?
They want to be able to further protect the existing end of the existing revetment and their property there. And so that's why they wanted to put it in there, and then put nourishment to be able to have some to replace what would have been eroding from there.
And so how often would they do the nourishment?
Well, we could do, because there's no erosion rates there, we could do a monitoring, like a benchmark drilled, like there's other projects where we've drilled holes at the existing beach elevation. So anyone could go out, anyone on the commission or the homeowner could go out, visually see if it's dropped below what the existing beach elevation is. And then at that point, put in nourishment to get up to either just above that existing beach elevation or just at that elevation.
But the house is 70 something feet from the proposed revetment, correct?
Correct. It is I estimate about 70 feet, I think, from that.
Yeah, and so how much erosion has the property witnessed, say, in the past 10 years?
I do not have it in the past 10 years, but you can see where the revetment is, and it's scoured back to the back of the revetment in that area.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps because revetments scour the properties adjacent to the revetments.
So we do see some end erosion from revetments. There is some erosion, which is why we typically taper down prior to the end of the properties. But in this case, you also see that the erosion is along that whole area and not just within what we've experienced is like 5-10 feet. It's that whole area. So that would have been what that entire shoreline would have been eroding. That's just the natural erosion in that area.
Yeah, it's the natural erosion in the area, and then the sediment goes elsewhere and nourishes other parts of the whole system. Okay, no more questions at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Steve,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this will be continued, but I have a natural inclination to not support armored solutions. I think it's been ingrained in me by this committee, but I have no other questions.
Okay.
thank you. Betsy,
So when I first looked at this, when people are, where you see it eroding, that's where you would put a turn back on a normal revetment. And it seems that that's kind of what they're asking for. So it'll just go around the corner to protect what's there. But
yes, this is an extension. At the current height, it would only be another 32 feet at that height, and then it tapers down towards the property line over 39 feet. So a gradual taper to the property line. And also the proposed revetment's not exactly like the current one. It is a rough face revetment, which absorbs more wave energy and reduces the wave reflection and any of that beach erosion. The current one is pretty,
No, that's okay. So I was inadvertently gone for a few minutes, but when was that original revetment put in?
I don't have the date in front of me. I don't know, Jen, if I had that on the submittal.
Can you give me a decade?
Oh, it's been there, Betsy.
It's been there prior
for a long
to
time.
permitting.
Oh, yeah. Very long time.
So it's an old revetment that now because it's eroding to the side, it's being undercut.
On that backside, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a problem. Yeah, I have no more questions, Jamie. Thanks.
Yeah, Courtney?
Jen, this question is more directed at you. The regulations about armoring coastal banks are complicated. Could you kind of walk through the regulations as they would apply in this situation? How much latitude does this commission actually have to authorize the armoring of the bank in this situation?
Give me one sec, Courtney.
These come from the state, right, Jen?
Well, the state, and you have this very similar regs.
Right, but we kind of just mirror the state on this.
Yeah, more or less. Let me grab my state regulation.
As opposed to be stricter. In fact, we're less strict than the state.
A time frame point, yes, you are, because you're 89.
As opposed to
Betsy's interpretation is an interesting one. That's why
No, that's fine.
That's why I'm just trying to get a sense what our latitude in fact is.
Yeah, I'm going to read it verbatim to you, Courtney, if I can find it and if I actually read it, because my contacts are giving me problems tonight.
Sorry to be a pain.
No, it's okay. When a coastal bank is determined to be significant to storm damage prevention and flood control because it supplies sediment to a coastal beach, coastal dunes, or barrier beaches, 310, and this is the state regs, 310, 1030, 3 through 5 shall apply. No new bulkhead revetment, seawall, groin, or other coastal engineering structures shall be permitted on such a bank except that such a coastal engineering structure shall be permitted when required to prevent storm damage to buildings constructed prior to the effective date in the regs, which we all know is 1978, including reconstruction of such buildings subsequent to the effective date. Provided the following requirements are met, the coastal engineering structure modification thereto shall be designed to and constructed to minimize using best available measures, and the applicant demonstrates no other method of protecting the building other than the proposed coastal engineering structure is feasible.
Okay.
And then protective planting designed to reduce erosion may be permitted. And then when due to wave action, okay. And then when a coastal bank is determined to be significant to storm damage prevention because it is a vertical buffer, pretty much more of the same applies.
But it's kind of tied to the structure, isn't it?
Yes. And your regulations.
Sounds like plantings would do the trick here.
I mean, it's. I asked for. Thank you, Jen. I mean, that's helpful.
That was the state, and then your regs say more of the same, except as permitted. So you have no new bulkhead revetment, seawall, groin, or other coastal railing engineering structures shall be permitted on a bank, except that such a coastal engineering structure shall be permitted when required to prevent storm damage to buildings constructed prior to March 22nd, 89, or constructed pursuant to an application filed prior to 89, including the reconstruction of such buildings, providing the following are met. It's a modification that is designed to basically using best available measures. The applicant has no other method of protecting the building other than the proposed coastal engineering structure, moving the building to an alternate location on the same lot, adjacent lot, or adjacent lot under the ownership or control of the applicant shall be presumed feasible, and the best available measures are utilized. It goes on to say, except as permitted under that section of the regs. No project shall be permitted on an eroding coastal bank, any portion of a coastal bank that's within a B zone, a portion of the coastal bank with a slope greater or equal to 4:1, or portions of the bank that is within 100 feet of land under ocean, salt marsh, or banks of salt ponds, estuaries, ponds, lake streams that flow throughout the year. And then 75 feet within a couple other resource areas. So
I think that, I mean, we obviously need to weigh the issue is that do you use a soft solution or do you armor? And
you plant.
I think that if it seems like Betsy's interpretation that this essentially is a repair of an existing structure. Well,
I'm just saying that normally structures like this, when they get to corners, will have a turn back, but this is more than just a turn. This is way more than just a turn back.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think Catherine said that she will go back and look at the possibility of adding a return to the existing structure that would maybe eliminate some of this larger structure in that area, correct?
I can do an alternative with that, correct.
That would,
that's kind of how I would see it, to protect what's there, because it's obviously crumbling, but with a turn back, and then deal with the rest.
And then also, Catherine would demonstrate, that could help, that would go to demonstrate, another feasible option, because you do have to address the regs where it says the applicant has no other feasible option of protecting the home, and the commission saying there may be another option that's less invasive, less, would have less of an adverse impact on that eroding coastal bank if we looked at possibly just building a return to what's there.
I will look at that and build out that alternative.
Okay, thank you.
Whitney, you good?
Yep, I don't have any other questions.
Okay. All right, so to me, it seems silly to do a mix of soft and hard. Also, all the regulations cited are that, nothing new is allowed. I get it. But to me, this is an extension thereof, my opinion. I don't know if I would call it a repair, but I'd go that way versus new. But I'll tell you what I got a problem with, Ms. Ricks, your estimated measurements. So you said that you didn't do a site plan. You don't know where the property lines are. How do you know where the wall's going to end? You said you're going to bring it to the property line, but you also stated that you didn't.
Going just near the approximate property line, and we get those off of the Massachusetts GIS.
All right.
We'll have to, so in order to have the PLS stamp it, we would have to go out there and do the full property line survey. And if that's required, then we will go back and do that.
I think that should be done. That's my opinion. I don't know if anybody else agrees. I don't like the idea. You said that the house was, I don't want to put words in your mouth, approximately 70 whatever feet. I don't even know that that's completely relevant, but I'd rather you say we measured it at 71.27 feet. I mean, again, my opinion for what that's worth. The other thing is, just to be clear, if you're asking for 30 cubic yards of beach nourishment, and then you said you're going to study it and so on and so forth, but you're not going to get a blanket okay to just every year check it and add what you want. Just to be clear, that's going to have to come in as, I don't know, an amendment or an RDA, but if we were to approve the 30 yards, it's 30 yards.
Yes, no, I would expect, because of the way this area is, and there's no real erosion rates here, there'd have to be some sort of monitoring set in this to determine
that also
where
goes
the sand
to
is
having
going and how much.
But just so we're clear, it's not an open-ended. And then, but that also goes to my statement about having a plan that has all this stuff on it. So now there's some baseline to go by.
Can I make, Jamie, can I make one clarification? DEP generally requires annual nourishment when they approve of revetments to replace the sediment that's lost from these eroding banks by the revetments. So restricting it to 30 yards could cause even more faster erosion of what's there now. So I think it's a discussion. I wouldn't be so not close-minded, but just adamant that that would be it, and until we can flesh this out a little bit more.
I'm not saying we wouldn't allow it. I'm just,
Yeah, okay.
you know, in past projects, you know, we haven't, you know, we give them 3 years maybe with, you know, X amount of yards total. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen a project where we just said, yeah, put whatever you want every year. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. But I'm not saying I wouldn't even be opposed to adding it every year. But I just think it has to come back with some data that says, you know, we need this much, you know.
Exactly, and that's what they were proposing to do with the monitoring, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Have some sort of benchmark to see what's happening, how much is being lost, and then determine how much should go back on. Yes.
Similar to a beach profile. I mean, so that's all I wanted to make clear.
And just for clarification, you want to know when the wall went in? It went in, it was permitted in 78. I'm looking at the language of the old permit right there. Approval is given to place large boulders at the foot of the banking facing Great Pond for approximately 75 feet to prevent erosion of the banking at their property in accordance with the plan submitted at public hearing April 26, 1978. DEP number 25103.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's been there a while, guys.
All right, moving
Jen,
on.
was there- Quick question.
No, no, I'll come back to you, Kevin.
No, I'm set.
Just try to get everybody one round before we recirculate.
Okay, I just don't. I don't think that they have to go back and rethink this whole thing, okay, and come up with a different approach.
I think they're going to go back and look at it, Kevin.
That's what he's saying is he doesn't agree with that, correct?
I agree with you.
All right, Melissa, round 2.
It was actually a question for Jen about the permitting for the revetment. Jen, that revetment, was it permitted to 151 T-ticket path, or is it to a neighboring house and T-ticket path 151 wasn't there yet?
151 T-ticket path.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Not a problem.
What? Oh, you don't have the date.
She
A
said
long time ago.
1978.
Date of the public hearing was April 26, 1978.
Wow, just when those state regs were applicable for.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Catherine, how long do you think you might need to look at do your analysis?
So it's not so much that as getting the PLS plan. So I'd like to request a continuance. How far ahead is from the hearing is the resubmittal due?
A week before the hearing.
A week before. Okay. I'd like at least 3 weeks to see if I can get the PLS to get out there, get it more of the survey done and redo the plans, and then be able to develop more on those, the alternatives. So if we can have, I guess, 4 weeks for the continuance. Because I know of our survey department getting out there to get the full property line survey.
That would bring you to either September 28th or that 5th week would be October 5th. What would you prefer?
Let's do September 28th.
Okay.
At the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this to September 28th.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till September 28th. Is there anything further? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Right, tell guy.
Steve.
And aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 28th. Thank you, Ms. Ricks.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Aye.
All right, next up. 357 West Falmouth Highway LC. 357 West Falmouth Highway, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling and to construct a new single-family dwelling with a garage and covered porch, to reconfigure the driveway, to install a pool, patio, stormwater infiltration system, and a new sewage disposal system, to conduct invasive species management and restoration, and all associated grading and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Brad Holmes from ECR or ERC, I always get that wrong, to present the continued project. Brad, is there anybody else I'm promoting up? I see Mr. Carroll's hand up. I'm gonna go grab him right now. Sorry about that, Mr. Carroll.
Mr. Holmes, you're up, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR here to present the project at 357 West Falmouth Highway. Ben Carroll, applicant, is also here as well. And Ben, feel free to jump in anytime to correct me if I'm wrong. If the commission's been able to see the site recently, I know you also had an RDA application within the last couple months, so you know the site. But as you know, the site's a severely degraded property. It contains a single-family home with overgrown landscape and a cottage in the back. We've submitted a notice of intent application to redevelop the site. I can share my screen if that helps.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Yeah, the commission see the site plan?
Yes, sir.
The site contains a single-family home that's shaded here facing West Falmouth Highway. North is to the top of the page. There's a bordering vegetated wetland to the east. Within the interior of the wetland is a certified vernal pool. We have the bordering vegetated wetland here in green, the vernal pool here in the dash blue, and the offset lines associated with the BVW and the vernal pool. The site is also within the FEMA flood elevation AE of 16 feet, which kind of wraps around the existing house, which is somewhat out of it, but let's just say the majority of the sites in the land is in the FEMA flood zone. What we're looking to do is to reconstruct a new home with garage and driveway and patio or pool with pool patio associated at the rear. The existing cottage at the rear of the site has been permitted for rehabilitation through the RDA application that I spoke to earlier. That's not part of this. Okay. We were able to meet on site with staff and go over the project, which is very helpful. We're able to make some modifications to the project to respond to staff comments. And through that, we removed the portion of the pool with patio so that it is outside the buffer zone to the vernal pool or the 100-foot setback to the vernal pool. I know the specific language to call that, but call it the 100-foot zone to the vernal pool. There is a portion of the project that's within the buffer zone to the BVW that's here. You can see the proposed house here in red. That sits over the existing house. The existing septic system that's here, the leach field, the tanks, that will be reused as part of the house. It's actually fairly new and functional. Mr. Carroll can give you a little bit more information on that. There's a new proposed clamshell driveway to access the garage. But as you can see, the majority of the project is outside the buffer zone. Yes, within land coastal storm flowage, but outside the buffer zone. We are proposing a roof infiltrator unit here to handle the stormwater associated with the home. There are several trees that are proposed for removal, which we've identified and put on the site plan here. Majority are non-native and mostly invasive. I'm going to pull up the mitigation plan. So in order to account for the increase project within the buffer zone, we're proposing a mitigation planting area of 2:1 here. They all uses native plant species, and we've gone through the sizes and spacing with the staff through staff comments. The area shaded in green is an area where we're looking to do non-native invasive plant management work, treatment and removal. This site, if you've been there, I think it has almost every invasive that we commonly find here, from privet to porcelain berry to sycamore maple, bittersweet. There, other than inside the wetland, there really isn't any significant native plants on the site, unfortunately. What we're proposing to do is to, work over time to replace that with native plantings and remove the invasives. We put together a step-by-step process for that. Here, but we do have the mitigation at a 2:1 ratio, and I think that was mainly the crux of the project, in the sense that this portion here in pink is really what the commission's going to be concerned with to mitigate. I think that overall, bringing this property into current day conditions is going to be a big overall benefit, because if you've been there, it's falling in on itself and really creates a hazard to everyone. So I'll take any questions that the commission may have. And Ben, if I missed something, please let me know.
You can stop sharing, sir. Ben, do you have anything to add at this point?
I don't think so. I think I could probably help field some questions, but Brad, I think you covered just about everything.
Very good. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So Brad, we just have a few comments, and I'll have a list of comment as well. And I have a couple of questions. So the language you're looking for with the 100-foot buffer is the commission has that you cannot move any closer than the present primary structure in the A zone to a resource area. And the A zone happens to be that 100-foot vernal pool buffer. So that's what's cutting that patio on that corner. Is that buffer zone's coming in, and if you go over that buffer zone, you're moving closer to the resource area in that kind of zone A, because it's 100-foot. So that's what you were looking to.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I understand the mitigation. You're moving it towards the wetland. That's great. Typically, we don't allow the removal of invasives to put mitigation, but this property is so completely overgrown. There's no place to put anything. I mean, it's just completely overgrown with invasives. So the board will have to make a finding that it's just completely overgrown to the point where, there is no area on the property to put anything mitigation. That said, in the green and orange areas, Brad, you said, and Ben, you may want to comment this on as well. You're proposing to remove that, and then you said over time plant it with native shrubs. do you have an idea of what percentage of that green and orange area you're going to plant with native shrubs? Is going to be that whole area that's shaded that you're going to replant with natural shrubs, or are you going to try to create a lawn back there and plant a portion of it? Because I'm just trying to visualize what's going to go back in that area. Because usually when invasives are removed, this commission likes to see, you know, a native shrub community in its place. So just kind of want more of a clarification of what's going on in that green and orange shaded area.
Sure. As you know, that area was a yard at one time and it has been left unmaintained for so many years that it's filled with invasive. The proposal isn't to remove the trees that are out there, even though there are sycamore maples and some other invasives, is mainly to work on the vines and the shrub layer. So we wouldn't be, the intent isn't to clear cut the site and then try to create a lawn area. The intent is to try to rehab the site. There's no sense in trying to do native plantings and improvement without trying to control the invasives. It's a large project. It's a hefty project. It's going to have to take a lot of time and be ongoing. So I can say that the intent isn't to just wipe it out and create a yard area. The intent is to get it under control and then reintroduce natives as we go. I can't say that it's going to be all done within a certain time frame, that we're just going to add in shrubs and have it all revegetated within a certain short time frame, because it is so extensive. And it will be something that we'll have to monitor and provide updates to the commission and work with you and staff to go to the next step. But this site is so bad that there isn't anything native or any for us to use. So it's you'd be looking at like 1,000 plants if you were going to just go at it all at once. So we're not able to do that. We're going to focus on the mitigation first and then work our way out, then add plantings and monitor and keep the commission updated, and hopefully at an extended period. We may need an extended order of conditions on this project so that it goes beyond the 3-year time frame. And that's something we're going to have to work on and bring out.
I think that's where and I completely agree. It's good. The site's going to take time. It's completely overgrown. I don't think I've ever seen a site this bad in Falmouth. So I commend you, Mr. Carroll, for taking this on. You got a big project ahead of you. That said, you are removing 7,000 plus square feet of vegetation that is providing some sort of limited wildlife habitat. So I think the commission would get have a better comfort level, because the way the plan is drawn, it's like, oh, we're going to remove this and then we're going to replace it with native. So the board's envisioning this whole green area is going to be placed with native. And just looking at it and looking at the flow, you're going to want to go around your property and everything, maybe come up with an area that you're comfortable with replacing with natives and kind of depicting that on the plan. We'll have a better idea of what your vision is. And I know it's going to be fluid as you get in there and you're monitoring and you're treating and you're replacing natives when you can. But I think a more defined area of restoration as opposed to the green, because I'm looking at this and the way you typically look at plants, I'm like, oh, they're going to replant that whole thing. And I'm thinking to myself, no, that probably is not what's going to happen. So that's why I kind of want to know. And I'm not saying, Mr. Carroll, that you can't have a yard back there. I'm just saying, if you do want to create some outdoor yard space, if you could put that on the plan so we could see where that boundary is, it might be helpful. I don't know if the commission agrees with me or not, but and I think Brad, they also look for spacing in these restoration areas. They're not as tight as the mitigation areas. So maybe a little bit more defined, and you've done a great job in honing it in as you have. I just don't think I'm quite there yet. The only other question I had, and then I can pass it off to Alyssa, is can you get sweet pepper bush in 5-gallon containers, Brad?
I believe so.
You think so?
I usually
Okay.
don't deal with 5-gallon, but I don't see why I can't get them in 5-gallon.
So why did you choose 5-gallon for this particular site then?
Why didn't I?
Why did you?
Oh, because when we spaced out the 3-gallon at 3 feet on center, the number was so large that we went to 5-gallon, try to space out, increase the spacing to try to get the number a little bit more reasonable. It was more of a monetary kind of issue because we got so much work here and so much, invasive control and funds towards that. That's why the increase for the size to increase the spacing.
Okay, because typically for mitigation, this board will condition it to be 3-gallon, 3 feet on center. That's their typical mitigation. In the restoration areas, like in the orange and the green areas, that's not the case, that you can have a larger spacing in those areas. That's why I think having just a more defined area, so this commission kind of has an understanding of what you're going to be doing on that property. Right now, I know you have a vision, but I think it would give the commission a little bit more comfort level to have it a little bit more defined on the plan, because it's a little vague. It's still just a little vague. I mean, the mitigation area is very well done, but the restoration area is just a little vague, I guess. But you have to hear from the commission.
Sure.
Other than that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman, unless I've missed anything in Alyssa's very detailed stuff.
Ms. Bergeron.
It belongs to her, not me.
I think we covered pretty much anything. Just one note from the previous staff comments, Brad, if you can remove the 50-foot vernal pool buffer from the plan, just to clean that up there. Thank you for submitting the BBW data sheets. We have those in our records. And just to add on to the mitigation comments, I guess if the board were to approve the 5-gallon shrubs, just to consider that they are being proposed at 6 feet on center. So we'll have to see if that's an appropriate amount of spacing and if that would create the same dense buffer that they're used to seeing. But I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Betsy.
Well, I just want to reiterate what Jen said. It would be nice to have at least sort of a conceptual plan. Like, how are you going to get from where they're going to have the house to the mitigation area? There must be a corridor. So that corridor could be the start of, where you might start doing some restoration planting. So just a little bit better idea of sort of what the timing of some of this might be, recognizing that some of it's a big job.
Good.
Thank you, Jamie.
Courtney.
I will echo Betsy's comments. I don't have any further things to add.
Thank you. Kevin?
Just to reiterate, the plan as presented is a little too vague. There's too much left to the imagination.
Melissa.
Thank you. I'll ditto what has been said already, but also I'd like to say you're proposing to remove 9 substantial trees, a couple of which are in our area, and I'm wondering if you're planning on. I don't see anywhere a plan for planting trees, just shrubs. I'd like you to consider some trees as well. And also remember, we're not the historical commission, but they're going to want trees too.
So if I can add, I think that's part of this is a multifaceted project in that we're before the historical commission, before the ZBA for some of the changes on the site, and we're before you. So the vagueness in some ways isn't intentional. It's just there are a lot of stakeholders who are kind of telling us what they want. That being said, I have absolutely no objection to more detail on the plans to the back, and we can certainly do that.
And trees, not just bushes. Yeah, not just shrubberies. Thank you.
I'm okay with trees, that's for sure.
Thank you. They'll help you when it floods.
Steve.
Mr. Chairman, I think everything's been covered. Thank you.
Yeah. I have one question for clarification, Brad, and if you addressed it in the narrative and I skipped it, I apologize, but in the announcement, it says that you're doing a new septic system, but on the plan, it says you're reusing the existing system. Which is it?
We're reusing the existing system. I'm not sure if we listed that in the narrative or not, but we clarified that on site. Ben was actually able to give us a little bit more detail that the septic system actually was replaced not that long ago. It's his understanding that it's suitable to be reused system for this house.
So the septic system was installed in 2009. Obviously, we'll have to pass Title V at some point, but it was only used for approximately 6 months before the house was abandoned, and then the house deteriorated into its current condition from 2009 to present. So the engineer who we've been working with has kind of told me that it's his opinion that we can probably reestablish flow and salvage the existing leaching field at least.
So you're going to, just for clarification, you're proposing a new tank, but you're going to use the existing leaching field.
Correct.
You're going to try to use the existing leaching field.
Try to use the existing leaching field.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
I don't see anything in the public chat, and I don't see any hands raised. So.
Well, we can ask, right?
Yep. Brad, how much time, and Mr. Carroll, how much time do you think you might need to kind of put a little bit more detail on that backyard and restoration area on the plan? And we'd be happy to meet with you over Zoom to discuss as well if you'd like.
I don't need too much time to coordinate with Ben and do a design. I know we get the holiday week, and I know you guys meet very often, so I mean, we could have it together within a week or two, and then that would have to be, a week ahead of your meeting. So you're looking at probably 3 weeks or so, whatever works, whatever you may have a little bit more time, on an agenda that works better for you.
Because Monday's a holiday. If we gave you to the 14th to get it in, that would put you on the 21st. How many things did I continue to the 21st right tonight? I don't think
Shorewood Drive, you continue to the 21st.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah, we've got 151 on the 28th. So
would the 21st work for you, Brad? That'll give you to at least till the 14th. They'll give you like 2 weeks to coordinate and put a design together. Or do you want to go to the 28th?
That works fine. Get to the 14th, get everything submitted for the 21st.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
Right. So at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue to September 21st.
Third, second.
And if you want to have a Zoom call, Brad, before you submit that, maybe like early, like the 12th or the 13th, just to review it with Alyssa and I, we'd be happy to do that if that's something you'd like to do.
That would be great. I'll coordinate with Ben, and maybe what we can do is get a preliminary layout over to you guys so that we can discuss over a Zoom.
Yep, perfect.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until 9:21. Is there anything else to add? All right, we're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa.
Freitag, aye.
Steve.
At 9.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 21st. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you,
Thank you
gentlemen.
very much.
Thank you for your time.
Bye, guys.
Night.
Good night.
Next up, Pam Barter, Wakeby Development, Inc., 11 Galleon Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For after the fact permission to remove a deck and for permission to construct a new deck, install mitigation plantings, and restore an area of unpermitted clearing. Done?
Yeah, it looks like Mr. Basinski is awake and trying to come into our meeting. Hi, Zach.
Good evening. I think it's still evening. I'll be quick. Good evening, commissioners. Again, Zach Basinski, professional engineer, Bracken Engineering. Here this evening on behalf of Pam Bowder and Wakeby Development. This is a project we were in front of you last week. At the time, the hearing was continued, so staff had a chance to review the updated plan, and we could submit field data sheets, which were submitted from Sebastian Incorporated. We did get our staff report back. Conditions of a 2-inch tree we're fine with putting on that. We still had the red oaks shown on the plan. I know that Mr. Bird had requested white oaks. We're fine if you don't mind for conditions put on at time of supplemental plantings. We're going to submit the final planting plan to staff at that time. When the final plantings are submitted, we will incorporate white oaks into that. And with that, I will turn it back over.
Thank you. Jen,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
you got everything you were looking for?
Yes.
Don't get too excited now.
Alyssa needs to agree with that, though.
I do agree. Thank you.
Okay. All right, commissioner comments. Melissa,
None. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, finally.
yes, it is. Steve.
All set, thank you.
Okay, Betsy.
Nothing. Thanks, Zach, for getting that in.
Courtney.
No comment.
Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Excellent.
Move to
All right,
close the
Jen,
hearing
is
and
there
take it under advisement.
Not yet. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
There's no public chat and no public chat and no hands raised.
Thank you. All right, Courtney, now.
Move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing and take it under advisement. Thank you, Zach, for getting everything in. We're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa.
Right, tall guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank
Thanks,
you, Zach.
Zach.
Thank you,
And
everyone. Have a great holiday.
I got that delivery today. Thank you. So I'll authorize them to start that review.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, excellent.
Have a great holiday, everyone. We'll see you at the next one.
You too.
Yep, good night.
you.
Zach. Night.
All right, the next two we've already done. All right, next up is our hearings under an enforcement order. First up, actually, did we already?
When do we continue Lakeshore to?
No, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't formalize it, all right?
I don't think we voted a date.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Okay, so I got to read it. So Susan and Gerald Lieber, 101 Lakeshore Drive and 16 Lakeshore Drive, Lakeshore Drive North, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation and construction of retaining walls within conservation jurisdiction. Ms. Bergeron.
Yes, we are requesting a continuance until September 14th. Instead of 16 Lakeshore Drive, I should have put 0, and we'd like to address both properties at the same time. So just for clarity's sake, if we can push it to the next meeting, we can be prepared.
Excellent.
And I think we're going to be discussing all 3 properties at that point, right, Alyssa?
Potentially, yes, once we look into it.
So
Like I
continue
said, I didn't prepare 16, so I don't have too many comments on that one at this time.
to what date?
Let me see, September 14th.
So I'll make a motion to continue all the ones that we need to continue until September 14th.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this till 9:14. Betsy,
Left eye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Mr.
Steve?
Chairman, we do have a hand raised on this one.
on an enforcement order.
I guess. I'm going,
No,
this is the poor Deirdre woman that's been waiting all night, so I'm going to.
Okay.
Can I promote, Mr. Chairman?
Yep,
I just did.
nothing to discuss, but
Yeah, we're just continuing it.
that's okay.
Deirdre, are
wait.
you there?
There you are.
Okay,
Muted.
you're muted.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to ask a quick question. I know you're continuing it, which is okay. I mean, I was interesting listening to the various things, but if I want to participate as a butter, what is the process to do that? That's my only question. If you want me to call the office or something, I can do
You can
that.
call us tomorrow, ma'am, and we'd be happy to walk you through the process.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you for being so patient with us tonight.
I did announce that at the beginning, right?
I don't know if she was already in though, if she came later.
Okay, okay. No, I mean, because I hate to see people wait for hours.
No, I know, and that's the right
You
thing to do, Jamie.
I mean, that was the whole principle of doing that
No, that's great.
announcement, Okay. Next up under enforcements, Louis Maglio Jr. and Betty Maglio, 57 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted construction of a shed, platform, and staircase within conservation jurisdiction.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm promoting Mr. Maglio up, but he would like to address the board.
Okay.
Mr. Maglio, you have to do something on your end. There we go. And Mr. Chairman, I have the plan to show the board Mr. Maglio's property and the shed in question and kind of outdoor space. Mr. Maglio, you need to turn your camera on and your audio on, sir. It would be in the lower left hand.
How's that?
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, maybe
You
it's
have a
better that you
camera,
don't see me.
sir?
I'm sorry, I guess I'll have to address the board. I guess you can't see me.
No, do
Turn
you
your
have,
video on.
I'm trying.
yeah, it would be in that lower left hand corner, sir. It would say, video.
How's that?
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Well, thanks. I didn't know if I'd be able to do that or not. I wanted to speak to the board. I hired good evening anyway, and I hired a surveyor, Jack Crawley, to represent me, and he was unable to attend tonight. I bought this property 7 or 8 years ago. It was a small cottage that my daughter uses, and I erected a shed that I thought was in compliance where it could go. And I learned later, this past winter, that it was in an area that was in a restricted area. So I guess I need a shed. I've looked around the yard to find out where I should put one. And because the lot is narrow and long, I can't place that shed anywhere other than where it is and stay in compliance with the building code, which is 3 feet off the lot line. I need a shed for my garden tools and equipment. And I think I've shared some pictures, and Jack Crawley did do a plan for me. And I would be certainly willing to mitigate down by the river in order to maintain the shed. That was.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a copy of Jack's plan. So if I can share my screen, I can show the board where the shed is.
Yep.
Okay, can everybody see my
Yes.
my screen? So
Yes.
here's the house. Here's Great Pond over here. Here's the salt marsh that Jack located. Unfortunately, he did not locate the coastal bank, which I believe is about right here. Could even be further up based on the survey that was done for 59 Shorewood. So there is a coastal bank on this property. And here is the shed. And around the shed, there is this deck for outdoor seating. I don't have a picture of it. We have a picture of it in our files, but so here's the shed. And based on the board's recent decisions regarding sheds being considered an accessory structure and cannot be moving any closer than the primary structure, you know, we had to bring this to the board. So do you want me to stop sharing, or do you want to continue to look at the plan? I think, Mr. Maglio, you're willing to add mitigation down here.
Down by the river, I think that's where Alyssa mentioned that the board likes to see.
Yeah, and
mitigation.
that is true. You're going to have to mitigate for the shed, whether it stays in this area or if we move it around the property somewhere, because it's, like I said, it's going to be in a coastal bank buffer. I think one of the other issues about the shed is not just the shed itself, it's about the large deck that was built attached to the shed. And that definitely cannot stay in accordance with their regulations. If they do allow the shed to stay, I think the deck, you know, the deck is definitely probably going to need to be removed. But the board will make a determination about the shed. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if everybody's seen enough of the plan.
Yeah, thanks.
I certainly didn't want to cause any issues here. I looked around the neighborhood. This shed's a lot closer to the water than mine. I read the building code in the town of Falmouth. The shed is 80 square feet, which doesn't require a permit in the town. And the wooden deck is more of a platform just to the kids play badminton down below, and it was someplace to sit when they played in that space. So, you know, if I have to lose the wooden platform, I guess that will go. You know, certainly would like to have a sitting area there. I don't know if I can put crushed shelves or not, if that's in compliance or not.
All right. Anything else, Jen, from you?
Nothing from me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Ms. Bergeron.
I think everything has been introduced so far. So the situation could benefit from commissioner comments now.
Okay. Well, as an accessory structure, it's closer. It moved closer than the primary structure, but that's whether it's the shed or the shed and the deck, correct? You know what I'm asking?
No, clarify, please, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so an accessory structure is not allowed closer to the resource area than the present primary structure.
Correct.
So neither the shed nor the deck comply.
In accordance with the recent decisions the board has made, yes, you are correct.
Okay. Okay.
The only thing I'd like to add is, you know, the property doesn't have a garage. I keep a lawnmower and gasoline. I certainly can't keep it in the house. And if you look at the plan, there is no place else on the property. The lot is 9,100 square feet, and about 60% of the lot is within the restricted area.
Yep. Okay. Betsy. No.
I have no brilliant ideas. This is a problem.
All right, Courtney.
I'm with Betsy on this one. This is a tough one. We're gonna have to think about this.
I'm not asking to put anybody in the corner. If I just move on, then everybody's gonna raise their hand and go, you didn't ask me anything. So, Kevin.
You know, I don't have an answer that's going to please anybody.
You guys aren't very helpful. Melissa.
Actually, a question for Jen, on that drawing. Did you say, Jen, that that on top of it all, the shed is actually on the coastal bank?
It quite possibly could be. Jack didn't locate the coastal bank, so Mr. Maglio is going to have to go back to Jack and have him put the coastal bank. There's definitely a coastal bank on the property to the south. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I'm looking at
shows it.
a satellite view of it, and I can see it in the satellite.
Yep. There's a coastal bank on the property. The shed could be sitting right on top of it, but Jack has to locate it on his plan for.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
What's the flood?
No,
Excuse
no,
me.
just a moment. No, that's okay.
What's the flood zone?
It's a flood zone, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry. Thanks. Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah, right here. Here's the flood zone bed. Oh, you can't see it. I'm not sharing.
We can't see. Yeah.
Hang on 1 second, guys. Let me get back there.
We also can't see your carrot very well. Move it around. You've got a.
I don't know. Well, if somebody can show me how to change that to make it a little thing, I can change it. Here's the flood zone. See the marsh line? See my little carrot moving?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now follow it. Follow it. Follow it. Here it is.
Wow.
There's the flood zone line. Goes right to his staircase, right by his deck.
Wow.
Right there.
But it's an A flood zone.
Yeah, it's an AE flood zone.
Yeah. Which I do believe the other sheds that we had issues with were the two that I can think of recently were in the velocity zone.
Not the one on the Antler Shores.
That wasn't velocity zone?
Alyssa, do you remember?
I don't, I'm sorry.
All right, I'll get there. Give me 1 second. Let's see, I'll figure it out. That was Mr. Sperry's property. That's the one I'm thinking of.
It's the one that
Mike moved.
They're actually building it into the coastal bank there.
Oh, wow.
Hang on. No. It's going to take me a minute to find it.
All right, Steve, you got a miracle answer?
No, sir, I'm afraid I don't, but thanks for
Come on,
asking.
Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Put it on a float.
I fear it might just, the answer might just be.
There we go. I got it.
You find it?
I found the site plan. I could have just gone GIS too. Why did I do this? No, the one on the Antler Shores that you made move up by the house was an A zone. The one on Edgewater Drive was a V zone.
Right. But Antler Shores was an A zone?
It was an A zone.
But it was in front of the house. It was closer to the resource.
Yeah, so they moved
like this is.
Yes, correct.
But they had a place to move it to.
Yes, they did.
As opposed to Mr. Maglio, who I don't see how you could squeeze it to either side of the house.
Well, there's a street side.
You can't put it in the street.
Can't put it on the street.
Can't put it in front of the house.
Zoning won't allow that.
Oh.
Then on Jack's plan, does it show the dimension from the deck to the property line?
No, it does not.
I'm looking at the pictures you sent. I mean, this isn't the greatest solution. Mr. Maglio's not going to like it, but like where that trellis is, that I wonder if there's room there.
I actually measured it there. It's about 14 feet from the deck to the property line. Okay. And the shed is 8 foot 3 inches deep. And it needs to be 3 feet off the property line. And you couldn't barely get, and there's a wall right there where the deck is that would prevent you from getting the lawnmower into the backyard.
Yeah, just throwing things out there.
I understand.
I
That
would
looks like a
recommend
node.
if the commission were to allow the shed, the deck is problematic around the shed. That is definitely.
That's definitely problematic, yeah.
Is
I'd be glad to remove the deck and certainly mitigate the shed so that I could have someplace to store the lawn equipment.
Can we see the plan again, Jen?
Around?
Everybody talk at once, please. Sorry. Everybody. Uh-oh.
There you go, thank you.
Kicked me out.
I've got a solution.
Go for it.
Yeah, so underneath.
By the neighbor's lot.
No, it's forget the deck. Do what many of us do, and underneath the existing deck attached to the existing house, you block off a little bit underneath it, and you store your lawnmower underneath that. And your gas.
He's got like 2 feet under it.
Yeah, that's what I do. I've got barely standing room.
Yeah. All right.
Where
I
my
think I
garbage
saw
cans go. You know?
Yeah. Courtney, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, it's, so if we were to require him to move the, if we could repost, eliminate his deck around the shed, and then move his shed back closer to the house, and then mitigate, is there a way we can do that?
You guys can do anything you want.
Well, I know we can do anything we want, but I want to try to be reasonably consistent.
Well, we would have to accept.
So
that it's
my
gonna be-
idea, if we can move his shed back nearer his house, that gets it further away from the resource area. It's still on the wrong side of the primary structure, but at least it gets it back. And then you have him mitigate for it and eliminate the deck. Is there a way we can make that work? Or some such facsimile thereof?
Where do you want it, Courtney?
Well, I mean, I'm
only
not
place
sure where
would
I
be
want it,
the
but I
only
mean, you've
flat
got a
place.
5-foot holly. It could go on the house side of the 5-foot holly, right where that, yeah, your cursor is.
That would be the only place that I could see where it could go.
Yeah, I mean, it's still leeward of the, if you will, of
You
the
put it
house, but
here, you
it's-
don't have any way to get around it. So the only other place would be.
Why
right
not?
here.
It looks like it's big enough to go to the head of the driveway.
Do we have pictures? Let me see.
Yeah, could we have a better plan of this? I mean, this is.
We have pictures which actually work really well, but.
We
that's
do?
just-
You know what,
Where are these pictures?
I'm going to get them for you right now.
They're in the staff report, Melissa.
They are? I didn't
Yep.
see them.
The last pictures of the trellis in that area.
You know, what we should do is have Jack, you know, we've given him some feedback. Now have Jack Landers call, draw it up on a plan, talk to staff about it and see what you can come up with. But I think some kind of combination of moving it back and removing the deck
Keep going
and
to one,
mitigating
two,
it
three.
is probably the least of the multiple evils we have to face.
The mitigation will go a long way because he's got grass almost all the way down to the water. I mean, I'd rather see a nice row of some decent vegetation down there than worry about the shed. I mean, it doesn't comply any way we look at it.
I could live with that.
I mean, wouldn't that be more, that's what we're trying to do is protect the environment, so the resources. That's my opinion.
On the bank.
That's okay. I could work with that.
You want to see the pictures, guys, that I have?
I found the pictures.
I found them.
Okay.
Yeah, they're because they have the same subject line. I didn't even see the second email, the one that came in this afternoon until just now.
I mean, one of the pictures shows his shed, and you look behind his shed, and you can see the neighbor's shed, which is even closer.
And guess what?
I could do a domino effect down so many roads in Falmouth.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Can you have
If you didn't
Jack
know
put it on
anybody,
a
you
plan?
look at your neighbor. Anybody, you'd see your neighbors and you go, oh, if this is good, mine would be good.
Yeah, so I think it should go to the head of the driveway. It would fit there. It's a cute little yard, but
I like putting it with the holly, where the holly is.
Between the holly and the trellis.
No, just put it where.
Yeah.
Yeah, between the holly and the trellis.
There's a septic system. I have one of those pumps there. And, you know, frankly, it doesn't fit in that spot. I've searched around the yard to find out where I could put it. And like I said, I'd be glad to mitigate for it. It's the best spot. It doesn't block my neighbor's view. It's up on high, dry land. And I'm at a loss, frankly.
It is definitely on the coastal bank there.
Does the board want to like, do you want to table this until the 14th and think about it some more? Maybe go to the site?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's
But
a
I
good
mean,
idea.
I think you can make findings that this, because of the size of the lot, it can't go to either side. It can't pull back.
Okay, so why don't we do this, Mr. Maglia? We're going to continue the matter until the 14th. And some of the board members might visit the property.
Okay.
And kind of look around so they can, because they haven't seen the property yet. They haven't been like on the ground to look, and it will give them a much better idea of the limitations on your property as opposed to looking at a plan.
Okay.
Is that acceptable to you, sir?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Not a
Thank
problem,
you.
sir.
Do we need a vote?
Yes,
We
need to
do.
continue it to the
I'll make a
14th.
motion to continue this hearing until the 14th of September.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this to 9/14. It'd probably benefit you guys to go out, all of us to go out and look at it.
Yeah.
Maybe we can come up with a good solution that would make all of us happy. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Freitag, aye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 14th. Thank you, Mr. Maglio.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
See you
Good
soon. Night.
Next up, Glenda Whiting, 74 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation within conservation jurisdiction.
Mr. Chair, the applicant has requested a continuance until September 14th. She will have the night off that night and can attend the hearing.
So moved.
Patton, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till 9/14. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
Freitag, aye. Freitag, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this till 9/14. Next up, vote orders of conditions. First up, Michael Day, Day Family, West Falmouth Trust, 0 Low Way, West Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum is all of us.
Okay. What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I
Another surprise lot.
This was Tom Bunker's plan, where I think the only staff concern was that unfortunately to get to the buildable part of the lot, the driveway has to cross over a coastal bank.
Coastal bank. Yeah.
So staff did have concerns with that, and there were some DEP technical comments regarding that there's no way to avoid it. So, but it is, impacting a coastal bank.
But it's an artificially constructed coastal bank, right? There's one.
I don't think so.
Yeah. No. Those are all vacant lots over there.
They designed
pretty
around most of it, right?
isolated. I mean, it's
we're talking the one on the bike path.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
But other than that, they wanted to construct single-family home, garage, deck, porch, and swimming pool. They did reduce the big, large circular driveway that was really gonna impact the coastal bank to just crossing it once and putting a turnaround in the driveway.
I think it's the other lot that's going to give us an issue, but I would make a motion to issue order and conditions as discussed. If you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Anybody have anything else? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. But just to ask, anybody have anything else they want to see in there? Anything different? Anything more?
What kind of do you want to make of the coastal bank, please?
What did you ask?
What findings would you like me to make regarding the coastal bank? They will be grading part of that bank and grading that driveway over the top of it.
Only one cut.
Well, can we put some language in there that can only be cut as proposed?
Yeah, I mean, we can make findings that basically it's the upper edges of the flood zone. It's so many feet away from any other resource area.
Yeah, all those findings should be in there.
If you want to approve this project, I will come up with a set of findings that you can approve this project. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay.
We approve.
I thought when we were voting orders of conditions, they were already drafted up and that we had already discussed them.
No.
Oh, aren't I naive?
No, when they come up, Jen has to go find the file and look around for a while, and then we talk about it.
Okay. We have to remember which property it was, of course.
You think the other one's going to give us a problem, Steve?
Yeah,
I
Bessie
do.
will remember this years ago. We all had to take turns writing the order of conditions.
Ooh,
that was nightmarish. Okay.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, Melissa, we'll sit down and have a cup of tea and I'll tell you about those days.
Yeah, once everyone's left the Cape and we can find a place to have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
The tea room is closed.
I know, that's sad.
It's very sad.
Hey, what's the next one? Did you vote this, guys?
Nope, we're waiting to vote. We're waiting on our chair.
Writing skills.
You guys keep yakking. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All right, we have
It's
a motion
too late,
and a second.
Jamie. That's why.
To issue an order of conditions as discussed. We're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa.
Freitag, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Karen E. Sacchetti, trustee. Karen Sacchetti, Revocable Trust, 461 Central Avenue, East Falmouth, Mass.
This is they're constructing an elevated second-story addition on pilings with a stairway. They had a small area near the marsh where they're going to mitigate. I have notes written down, use some of the mitigation to close the grass area to the salt marsh. That the applicant wanted to use silt fence only. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And revise the planting density to our specifications at 3 feet on center. So it would be about 40 plants to fill the area.
Move. So it was discussed. The order of conditions.
Word second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Anything else? All right, we're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa.
Freitag, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, James J. Mangroviti Jr., 101 Madeline Road, Falmouth, Mass. This was an amendment, right?
This was the amendment about that one stoop moving closer.
Oh yeah.
Then they said they put in more plant than they needed to when they originally did it.
But they're already dead.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dead plants there. Hang on.
And they had the pebbles in the front that they were going to replace.
I'm gonna remove that.
The drip zone, yeah.
Yeah, there's 10. My concern with this was we were on site. They kept pointing to an area down the bank. Remember, Alyssa, it was in that corner and they're like, there, we put plants there to hold the bank. And then when we went back to the office and looked at the plan, that's where some of the mitigation was. So it wasn't extra. And when Tom's counting individual plants over here, and it just seemed, I don't know. But I guess they only want to plant 56 square feet of additional plants. That's what they feel they need. But then most of the, Melissa counted 16 dead plants already in their mitigation.
And that was just a first count too.
And then I think it was just some slight revisions or tweaks when they built the house, and then that step moved closer. But the board seemed to think that that was okay because it was a safety issue. Everybody but Courtney. Go, Courtney.
Right.
Hold the line.
Right.
You know, Courtney and I already discussed this. We're ready to move on.
Okay.
Thanks, Bets. Hey, all right. So, I mean, the dead plants they have to fix anyway, right?
Correct.
It's part of the
Yeah.
compliance. So that's kind of a moot point.
Well, let's have them do it sooner rather than later, instead of waiting for their compliance.
Well, I guess the thing comes down to, does the board agree with the argument that they made, that they planted extra mitigation plantings, so therefore they only have to plant 56 as opposed to
100 and something.
I thought the ones in the corner were were replacement plantings. There was something, there were like 3 or 4.
I brought up the old plan while we were discussing it.
No, I wasn't.
What did Tom say? They planted.
Can I make a few clarifying points?
Yes, please.
Please.
I should have mentioned in the staff report, I did speak with the homeowners when I was on site. They were very aware of the dead plants. They wanted to replace them just after the drought into the fall when there's less heat. So they will be replaced. When we were on site initially with Tom to talk about the project prior to filing, he did reference that northern corner and how this was the area where there was extra plantings. There are some replacement plantings in that area as well. To Melissa's point, the way I understood it when Tom was explaining, the planting plan showed almost a staggered formation of plantings, and currently there's a single row and yet somehow that occupies more square footage than what was previously proposed. He said that it was almost like wider. That's how my brain understood what he was saying. I didn't really follow, but that's what I understood from the discussion.
But
I'm not sure
just
if
to
I
put it
agree.
simply, he's stating that he has more square footage than he was required to plant.
Correct. And so they're proposing, in order to mitigate
want
for
credit
the
for it.
increase in deck, he has a credit. And so
Yeah.
they're just proposing the rest of what would be
So
required.
do we accept him saying that he has more square footage? I mean,
And from a staff point of view, I can't see it, but that's gonna be up to the board.
so can we put a finding in there that he's gonna put the whole 100 and whatever it was footage in?
As I told you earlier in the evening.
123, right?
Like.
No.
I wouldn't doubt there's some. I don't think it's as much as what was stated.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Courtney?
Yeah, just one point. While Betsy and I agreed to move on from this as a statement of principle, I'm still opposed to the step. So when the vote comes, I'll oppose it, but that's all right. I'm making my statement.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's fine. So I mean, there's two pieces. I mean, do we accept
Betsy
that?
and I'll go out and drink a beer.
Do we accept his rationale on the mitigation? I mean, we're talking about 123 square feet, right? If he doesn't get credit,
How can you go from a single row to a staggered row and have less?
He went from staggered to single.
Staggered to single and have more area covered. That doesn't make
unless you
sense.
put
to
it
me.
in like a hedge, you put them closer together. I don't know.
So make it, so require the entire amount to cover it. Because what is it? What's the number, Alyssa? He says he has 68 square feet over.
Yes, it was an increase of 41 square feet in decking, requiring 123 square feet of plantings. The numbers were inverted on the plan, but I did the math. The initial planting was exceeded by 68 square feet, so only 55 square feet is being proposed.
Well, you know, we didn't verify that. So I would just require the whole 100 something. They didn't have you. That's not a certificate of compliance, right?
This was discovered at the time of applying for compliance. They realized there were these discrepancies, so they wanted to clear them up while the permit was still valid.
So we're willing to work with him on one point. He should work with us on another point.
And I did have a note here that someone had mentioned writing a condition not to set a precedent for the half step, something about how
oh, that's
the
an
distance
important
from
thing.
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
Maury's.
the distance from the original house and how a half a step, I don't want to say the words negligible, but was
Minimus.
yes,
Minimus.
enough where it felt by you guys that it would not set a precedent.
Yeah, that at any future time you had to hold where the C line was. Remember, he had an A line and a B line. It was his C line. You can't go over that.
So if we issue an order of conditions, we're accepting these deficiencies.
Correct.
And then requiring this mitigation.
Yes.
Just so I'm clear.
Yeah.
I'm making a statement.
Yeah, that's a good statement, Jamie.
Yeah, it's just to make it clear because it's, you know, sometimes it gets convoluted when you talk about mitigation and then what are you actually agreeing to?
Do you want to set a precedent though, like this?
Again, I think it's minimal. It's actually a half a step. I know that was splitting hairs here, but I think for changing that whole stairway, you know, technically, legally, he can make it fit. But my opinion, it's a better stairway the way it is. And it's a half a step that's encroaching.
But also the deck itself was a couple inches larger in every direction too.
We moved it back. They moved it back.
And that's why they're mitigating for it, Melissa.
That's what they're mitigating for, yeah. They didn't move the deck back.
It was only 0.1 of a foot, 0.2 of a foot in certain areas. It was really the half step, which something could be done more about that I think was up for discussion.
What a headache for them that their contractors didn't build to.
Well,
design.
you know, that strictly speaking isn't our problem. I mean, if they did it
Yeah, I
wrong, they
know.
did it wrong.
Yeah, I know.
But having said that, you look at it and you go, you know, is it really that big a deal? You know,
But
I
they
don't
should
know.
have to, I agree with you. That if we're gonna allow this, then they have to give the full mitigation for what they're doing.
Yeah, man, if they complain about 60 feet more than what they thought, then I don't know. So again, if we vote for this, it's you're voting to accept it or not, just to say it. So do what you think is right for yourself. Is there any other pieces to discuss?
I'll make a motion to issue an order condition as discussed.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Wow. All right, so there's a motion and a second on the table to issue an order of conditions as discussed. If there's nothing else, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, no.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa,
No.
Steve,
And I.
4-2. We've issued an order of conditions. Kind of, sort of, thank you. All right. Before you guys jump on the last thing, a reminder, there's no meeting next week. And then Melissa had a couple of procedural questions. I don't know if they've been addressed. So I'm going to ask you, Melissa, you had a question about zoning and historic.
Yeah, and I think I get it now. It's all happening sort of concurrently, and we have no say over anything zoning. But for example, on one of the properties that was there, they got a variant. They already went to the zoning board, but I'm wondering if we were to have approved, you know, the plantings or whatever before someone takes their non-conforming project to the next board, do they sometimes say, well, the Conservation Commission has already approved this, and so
The other boards are like we are. They say, we're not the Conservation Commission. It doesn't, that we don't care what they said.
That's
We do
what I was
try,
hoping.
Melissa, but the other boards and administrators are savvy enough to know that we're not making a determination on a zoning reg or a historic reg or anything like that. There
Okay.
is a regulation in the Wetlands Protection Act that states, and it applies to all permits except for 40Bs, that an applicant must apply for obtainable permits prior to coming before us. So that's why a lot of times you'll see them in zoning while they're before us, because the Wetlands Protection Act says that they have to at least, they don't have to obtain the permit, but they have to at least apply for all obtainable permits. That means if they need a special permit from ZBA, application has to be in its ZBA. They need a septic, they already have to have either their septic permit or they have to be before the Board of Health before they come to us.
And it's not up to us to know that, to know that they need to be in front of the Board of Health or the ZBA or anything like that. Okay.
But we usually do.
But I usually,
Yeah.
I've been doing this a long time. If I'm looking at a plan, we'll go down, talk to building, talk to Noreen and see like, hey, this is screaming zoning to me. Can you tell me?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm looking at some of these plans and I'm saying, well, this is obviously an historic district and this one obviously is encroaching upon.
And they're already before historic.
Okay. Okay, and then actually a request, sort of a technical sort of bookkeeping request here. So we get our NOI and our paperwork all the time, but for example, today this gentleman on Sherwood Drive, I didn't see that until everyone said that we have a picture, and it's because it was attached. It was a second email with the exact same subject as a prior email. So all the NOIs were in one email. There were like 7 or 8 of them. And then today another one arrived that had just the one in it, but it was attached to the bottom of my original document. And I didn't see that there was a new document
What
there.
program are you using? Because that happens to me when I'm on like webmail.
Well, I'm just using Gmail. So
yeah,
I'm wondering if
that happens on Gmail too. It's a quirky thing with Gmail, and it happens with if I have to go onto a different computer or from home and I have to Gmail instead of my Outlook. It's a very annoying thing.
Yeah, and so I have a request, maybe if we have more than one email with NOIs or RDAs, could we name it, blah, 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 for the, whatever the formula is, NOIs for appointment today, and then a B for the second one, or C?
We don't know how many emails we've sent with A, B, and C. I mean, we can try to differentiate, Melissa, but we can't.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
The amount of emails we send you guys.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That was my,
I get it.
yeah, that was my intention with the second email, is I tried to keep everything in the same email chain so they don't get distorted.
Yeah, and I guess, if you don't notice that it's there, then you don't notice that it's there. Okay.
I do try to send them before the hearing, at least the day before, but sometimes that doesn't quite happen.
Yeah, okay, well, thanks.
We can try, Melissa. We'll try to differentiate for you, but.
Is anyone else having these problems? No, I see.
No, you just get used to it, Melissa.
It's a Gmail.
Yeah, I guess I'll get used to looking deeper into my emails instead of just
It
assuming that
happens.
the 10 attachments are all the attachments I need.
And I lose emails all the time because they're attached to other emails from an earlier chain. And I'm like, where is this email?
Yeah. Well, that
I
happens.
hate
to me
it.
at
I
work
hate that.
too, so-
I hate it when they link chains together, but you just.
Yeah, okay.
And I always try to note for you guys' benefit if I've omitted anything, because we're still waiting on different factors or variables. So if I haven't sent you everything, I will note what it is so you can anticipate that, if that's helpful.
Yeah. Yes. Excitement.
It all
Yes. Okay, great. Shall I move? That we
Yes.
Please.
Adjourn?
Yes.
Second,
Okay.
Wapelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Try aye.
Patton, over and out. Aye.
Unanimous.
great
We are
long
adjourned.
weekend,
Thank you,
folks.
everyone.
Woo-hoo.
Bye, guys.
Time to
Have a
breathe.
great
Bye.
weekend.
See you tomorrow, Steve.